We got at least one fan.
Well, there we go. Right.
If it makes you feel any better, I could log into YouTube, mute it, and then just click play and watch.
Yeah, that's great. Actually, I've often thought that some of the like the early on views that we were getting, like during Alex's or Rob's campaign, were exactly that. They were all of us watching it to see who was watching it. So it was generating like these, except for that one guy, Porphagentius or whatever, who was like watched every single episode of every single campaign and commented on every single episode.
Yeah.
Oh, Lord.
I still think he's going to kidnap us one day and force us to do another campaign, like like Misery.
From his fucking basement.
I do slightly worry about that. All right, so
from his game dungeon.
Right, so so last time we left off, right? So we're on the train, the rail as it's called, which is just a very large, elementally powered train that runs from Althania in the south, and the line, to the best of everyone's knowledge, terminates up in Kor, the city of Kor, inside the kingdom of Kor, worshippers of the god of Kor. Right, so up there. I threw a map into chat earlier. I know it's rough. It was hand drawn, not like beautiful and done on computer, but it should give you an idea where things are in relationship to themselves, or to each other rather. Relationship to themselves is they're where they are. So some of you got on in Olram. Some of you got on the Stormmaw Mountains. And are now heading up to Kor. Each of you, for your own reason, is going to Kor to be part of a group to go through this gate to an area known as Post Gate. There is no name for this new land. Each of you having been sponsored or wheedled your way into this process. You've met each other for the most part on the train, having interacted with a couple of different individuals who are likewise on board, be they guards or rather important people of the realm, or just passengers or butlers. And it kind of culminated last time with the revelation that there was actual true Althanian on board the train, who was traveling from Althania, presumably to Kor, possibly also to go through the gate, as it seems that a lot of individuals on this train are going that direction. And there were a couple of encounters where maybe we saw people, maybe we didn't, and there was a murder. The Althanian was struck down. Everyone rushing along the length of the train, either on top, through cabins, or around these cars, arriving at the front. The VIP car to see this redheaded woman standing over top of the body. Another woman, a beautiful young lady, crying, saying, repeating just over and over, "She killed him, she killed him, she killed him." And it was then that a few of you noticed something moving along the top of the train, running away from this murder site. And I believe it was a sleep spell that knocked unconscious this fiendish-looking wolf hound-like creature that then toppled from the train. And even at the train's movement and the clamor of the wheels on the track, there was still this sickening sort of as it hit the ground. And I think that's kind of where we are, right? There's if I'm not completely crazy, our gnomish friend is back the direction of the toppled creature, as is our third person speaking gentleman, and are now highly in debt for his expensive meal, carouser. I believe both DBJ and Ken, I believe both of you are up at the front. Ken being in the room with the redhead and the dead body, and DBJ.
I don't mean to interrupt.
No?
He wasn't dead yet.
All right, the dying.
Yeah,
Yeah, no, that's an important point. It's an important point.
I
The
pumped him
dying
full.
Althanian. Yeah, the dying Althanian, the lady in armor with her weapon, and I believe DBJ, you were holding the sobbing young lady, and that's where we'll pick back up. So, as the camera sort of pops to life, we're kind of looking over the shoulder of Ken here, and looking at this woman who has, I believe, repeatedly screamed, "You're letting them get away," pointing back that direction, which is part of what sent you guys running that way. But she's still holding on to her weapon. There is no apparent blood on the weapon, although she does have blood on her. As does the young woman that DBJ is holding. She has, snuggled herself in so close to him that he's also now has blood on him, on his clothing from her. The young woman with you is not soaked in blood, Carrie-esque, but is soaked in blood like someone might have been had they tried to not revive but wake up to get off the ground this Althanian who had been ripped or sliced. If sliced, it was serratedly sliced, perhaps ripped, sliced, entrails kind of hanging, very, very badly wounded. But she's covered to that extent that she has not only blood but viscera on her, as she is holding on to you, leaving streaks of tears and streaks of blood as she, seeks comfort there. So yeah, we'll pan in and we see this at least somewhat religious man staring across a dying body at this guardswoman.
I don't think he'll live.
She takes her blade and she slides it hatefully almost back into the scabbard. And the scabbard, you notice, is not a full scabbard. It's only about yay long, maybe a foot long, versus the blade itself. So the blade, the edge of it, the blade is actually exposed past it. And you've seen this, you have personally seen this before in some of the Corvite paladins, the ones who actively were part of, not a war force, because war hasn't been known to the land in 60 plus years, really, but it is that sort of symbol that I can kill you even when my weapon is sheathed. Like, with enough force, she could snap it from her belt without having to draw it. And it's meant to be imposing as well as utilitarian. And she curses in what your brain registers as maybe like old dwarvish. Like it's more of like a bar curse, like a tavern swear, than it is anything you'd expect from a guard or someone perhaps of her station. Her armor looks expensive. Well, you're gonna do something.
I've done all I can.
Steve, Durr, since he's dropped that, is not worried about what's going on past it. He's turning around, coming back down off the top where he had slept it, and is moving back through the inside of the cars. Now, if I'm not mistaken, I am to the rear of the car where my room is.
Right. So you are 4 cars back right now.
Right.
Right.
So I'm gonna
yeah.
drop off in such a way that I can come up the passageway and pit stop for about 30 seconds in the room I'm sharing with the very quiet religious individual there.
Right. We'll jump back to you in a second because there will be something
Right.
that you encounter before you get all the way back there.
So to be clear, I've used the healing light from Celestial Warlock. I've used all my lay on hand points from Paladin.
Right.
So I'm down now to essentially cure wound spells, which I could cast one of them. Or
right.
two of them. Yes.
And you have that feeling, like you just expressed to her, that it's not going to work, right? That,
like it's going to be temporary reprieve, and I'm only prolonging his suffering by doing that, right?
Right. As you were sort of looking at it, and those who magically look at it or have magically interacted with it, there is something tangibly dark about this wound, right? That no matter what
then instead of then casting cure wounds or something like that, that's only going to prolong his suffering. I don't know. I will cast detect magic.
Yeah.
And then I'll cast, like, just for, I guess, thematic purposes, I will bless him in the holy name of Kor, and cast bless on him as he's dying.
So as you sort of go through this, maybe it's a funeral prayer, or at least
like
a Corvite ritual for a dying soul that you can't do anything about. You hear the lady. She is slightly after you, murmuring the same words. You can tell it's not in a mocking way. It's almost like that child who went to Catholic school and knows the prayers and kind of feels like this is the appropriate time to say them. Maybe there is belief there, maybe there's not, right? Almost every Corvite has a strong belief superficially.
Yeah. But I mean, I'll show, like, real, honest compassion for the guy. Like, I'll, he's, I don't know if he's suffering as he's unconscious, but, like, I'll hold his hand. Like, I'll, like, put my, holy symbol, like, I'll take my holy symbol off around my neck, and I'll place it on, like, in the hand that I'm holding, like, so we're both holding this thing together. And I'll say this, prayer for him. And then, like, at the moment he passes, like, I'll just kind of very gingerly or gently, like, close his eyes if they're open, and, like, put his hands on his chest.
So as he takes, like, his last ragged breath, you feel a slight pressure in your hand, almost like he's trying to squeeze it. His eyes never open. At this point, there is this deep crimson, almost purple blood running out of his mouth, and he gets out 2 syllables that sound Kavik or Kovek or something along those lines. Before he dies, and as he dies, he instantly turns cold, and you can hear this hardening happening, as he dies in the same way that many Althanians do, and he hardens, and his body becomes much like stone. The viscera that is physically part of him, the guts that are hanging out, the blood still running from his mouth, likewise harden. The difference being that the blood from his mouth hardens in a crimson hue, The intestines where they are more inside of him are the same alabaster he is. The ones that are more exposed and are more bloody and wounded are crimsonish. He literally dies into a piece of art. And with that, you hear this shattering of glass as the redhead woman her mailed fist goes through one of the windows, and she just starts screaming in a dialect that you're not super familiar. It's still Corvite, but it would be like being from New York and having a Texan all of a sudden really angry. Not hard to do.
Have I ever seen anything like this before? I've ever seen one of these things die before?
So that's how they die. Whether or not you've seen one, probably not. Like Althanians don't come out of Althania very often. But it's very well known that this is how they pass.
Oh, okay, all right. So I didn't know if it was one of those things where it was like, of course they turned to stone, like,
right,
like where it was like, sort of like a piece of folklore or some kind of.
So it would be the equivalent. It would be the equivalent of vampires are real, and someone tells you they turn to ash, so you know it, and then it happens. And there's a big difference between it happening and knowing that it happens.
Sure. Yeah.
But
okay. I like slowly reach out and like touch his body. Like maybe like just his face or something. Like the character, Hugo is a skilled actual stonemason.
Mm-hmm.
And he's, obviously clearly a holy man and a healer of some variety. And so like the whole, I guess, culmination of like these things like coming together in this one moment is very intriguing to him. So maybe even though it might be like a little disrespectful or something like that to some cultures to touch the dead, or who knows, he still reaches out and like sort of caresses the stone face of this once living thing.
So it is an odd sensation because as you touch them, like the skin is more like marble, right? There's no grate to it. There's no, it's very smooth. And his hair likewise has stone. His clothing is still clothing. Like it did not also turn. It's only his flesh has. And as you sort of have that surreal moment, you hear a blood-curdling scream from behind you as the young woman that Thargus was holding looked back into the room, and she can see just enough past you to see that he's now obviously stoned. And likewise, she knows what that means. So she screams.
I like snatch my hand back like I've been caught stealing or something, when she screams, it sort of breaks me out of my, I don't know, reverence, I suppose. Mm-hmm. And then I like quickly stand up. I'm sorry. I wish I could have saved him. I do. I'm sorry.
Sure.
I looked at her like apologetically, and like I looked to the the lot of the people here. Not spinning around in a circle, of course, but
right. So Thargus, at this point, she has completely released you. Not before she has turned you into both a tear snot and blood rag. But any sort of your brain is sort of wired that women in distress become pliable, and the scream that she lets out when she turns and sees the dead Althanian, likewise rips you from any thought you had of that for the moment. And it is this utterly terrible, non-gratifying, unoptimistic. It is like everything that you feel negative about your life is currently laying in that room, right? The Althanian was obviously on his way for some business, and now that can't be conducted. You know, this guy had 2 beautiful women, and now he doesn't have any, right? There's a failed guard, obviously, standing in this room who either has enough money or a lack of care that she has put her fist through the window of this train, and that can't be cheap. I mean, like, I imagine that you're looking at it and adding up these numbers business wise of what this could possibly mean, and it's dismal in there. But it's also, I guess, somewhat self-quieting because you're not the only person that fails, right? And so that's kind of the scene that you have before you at the moment. What are you doing?
My feeling a little guilty because my first instinct is when she leaves my grasp is to just like to look down at my clothes, like, why am I like, oh, this is, I'm thinking about myself first and how grimy I am. The blood is sticky, and I can feel her like tears on me, and it's making me feel very uncomfortable. And then I realize that it's not really about me, because this person just lost someone who must be important to them, and a person that's not legendary, but to see the death of an individual that's you don't see very often outside of even their own community. I'm like, oh man. So I stand up, I kind of look around and absent-mindedly kind of like pull at my clothing, and I take a look at her guardian, or the guard, the woman in red, and let's see if I can see. And I kind of go towards her. I'm going to walk a couple of steps close to her, not enough to touch her, but to be in her space so that she recognizes me, that she acknowledges my presence. But I don't want to appear, there she is, and I don't want to appear threatening to her. And
so as you step off of this, because you're kind of in that doorway, right? So you're stepping in, and the sound of the train moving, the wind whistling by, the sort of of the train is more quiet in here than it is in any other room, right? I mean, after all, this is a VIP car. And as your eye takes it in, there's this stark contrast as your boot scuffs the floor, and there's this sort of and you look down, and there are deep pitted claw marks in the ground that have wrenched the wood up, and you're actually scuffing splinters across the floor as you step in. And each of them is 4 distinct marks, right? So there's 4 marks, 4 marks, 4 marks. So a total of 16. Some 4-legged creature, like even someone who only hunts 2-legged creatures, as you do. No, I mean, you can see clearly some 4-legged beast was here. But yeah, you move towards her, and she spins towards you instinctively, as she's been sort of looking out this damaged window. And again, you feel that instant moment of she sizes you up and is kind of frustratedly looking at you, but not in any sense that she feels, worried.
I take a deep breath, bow my head. I resist the urge to bring my hands in front of me, and I clasp them behind my back. And I'm thinking like, what would my father do? My father. And I say to her, Lady Red, if I could just say a few words to you and have a few of my inquiries answered. And I understand this is a time of great stress, but I need to know. And I kind of, without using my hands, I kind of use my eyes to kind of gesture as to the whole scene. Like, what is this madness?
So she looks at you, and it's a murder. It's me failing, and I've never failed before. It's quite possibly the death of social interaction between Core and Althania.
I mean no disrespect, my lady, but this is much more than just, as you say, murder. What kind of beings were those that assaulted this vessel that we're riding in? I mean, who would or what would bring such foul beasts in here, and for what purpose? I mean, they must have extreme resources to even accomplish something like this. Wouldn't you agree?
So she steps towards the Althanian, almost irreverently stepping across his face over it to a table that has a crystal vial and a drink in it, and she pours herself some and she slugs it back rapidly, and she hurls the glass at the corner of the room, and she screams, "Isn't it obvious? It's..." And then we cut back to Durdrag, who has dropped down. Icarus, you're back that same direction, right?
I think so. Yeah. Yeah. As soon as I was going to be heading back for the scene of the crime, so to speak.
Are you heading back through the cabins or on top of the train?
Where did I leave off? Was I on top at that point?
You were on top of the train.
Yeah, I'll just head on top.
Okay.
As well.
So if the two of you remember, there was a gentleman below you that had cried out, and as you go into the room there, or the cabin, the car, Durdrog, you see this elderly man holding, like, he's sat in the floor. His wife's head is in his lap, and she is unconscious. He himself looks woozy, but she is just straight up out. And he's got her head in his lap, and he's tapping on the back of her hand, and he's just, darling, and he sees you, and he's like, "Kind sir, help! She might be dead. No, she's breathing, but something's definitely wrong."
Look at the guy. Pause briefly a second. Look at the guy and say, she's just asleep. Just hold her for a little bit. I got to go do something." And leans over briefly at the lady and reach for a carotid, find a pulse.
Yeah, I mean, it's old.
I know what it is. Well, I know what I did, so I know what happened to her.
Right.
Just make sure she didn't,
Nope.
die in the process of it. The bag will be all right. And I step into the room where myself and Hugo had been staying, and closed the door very quickly.
Okay.
That takes about 15, 20 seconds, and the guy that walks out the door is not the guy that walked in the door.
Okay.
Similar build, but without the beard, little shorter, little heavier or thicker. The jacket and vest are missing. The cravat is missing. The cane is clutched in his right hand about halfway down. It's definitely distinctly a club in his hand at this point. The most noticeable thing on him is the arms are heavily scarred, and he is walking at a rather rapid rate. He's not running, but he is brooking no interference. He will push by anybody or anything that's between him and where he's headed, and he is headed back up to the front.
Okay. So, as you are headed to the front, you have you and actually Icarus. Wolfram, where are you?
I'm at the very back of the train. I chased these things to the very end. And so I'm picturing myself standing on the last car.
Right. Okay, so I'll come back to you in just a moment. Icarus and Dirtrog, you both have the clearest line. You can see moving from the engine of this of the train is you saw him earlier. It's this creepy looking guy.
Yeah.
He is moving with two of the guards, the halfling and the larger, more rotund human, back towards the VIP cart. And you can't make out what they're saying, but you can see that the two guards are kind of yammering at him, and he keeps he listens and then waves his hand almost for like, okay, shut up, and he's moving towards the that car also.
I kind of just murmur to myself, what now? And I kind of double my pace and to get up to the cart to sort of, at the same time or maybe a little bit before them if I can.
Okay. So you two will arrive almost simultaneously. As jumping from car to car is less interference from people inside, but also takes a little more planning as you are literally mentally calculating the leap to make sure you don't jump and the train move too far underneath you before you hit your target. So as Durag, as you come up to this scene and you're looking in the room and seeing the others inside over this now stone body, and you get a glass shattered near your face, as she launches the glass into the corner, you hear a clank above you. And looking back, you see Icarus now standing on top of on the roof of the car behind you.
Yeah, I'll just do like a one-handed vault down, kind of land next to him. I look into the door. I assume where the door is there, where we can see the body and all that. Yeah.
You're not armored at the moment, right, Icarus?
No.
Okay.
No, that's all in storage right now. Well, actually, I have a. No, actually, no, I don't have that either. Okay, yeah, no armor.
Okay, so, the camera pans back inside, and the glass shatters, and she goes, "Kaiji, it's obviously a summoner of some sort." And at that moment, Wolfram, can you give me a perception check, listening based, if it matters for you?
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, you're fine.
I didn't think you meant me because I was at the other end of the train.
Yep.
17, I believe.
Okay. You hear a sort of a needly voice, if that can be a thing, inside the luggage, this sealed, iron doored, no windowed, thick walled car that you're on now. The one the guard was propped up against earlier. You hear this hushed, needly voice. Do you by what languages do you speak? If you don't know, just make them up now.
I believe I speak Dwarven and Common, but Common and Thieves' Cant and Dwarven. That's it.
Okay. And so everyone did it so that you have your one given to you by your class, the one given to you by your background, and then you have bonus languages equal to your intelligence bonus. Perfect. Just want to make sure. Just don't want to short anybody here. Okay, so you hear this this neatly clipped language inside, and you can tell that it's maybe it's wow. If you could have
Might I
gleeful
recognize
frustration.
the language, even though I can't speak it? Like,
No,
I don't have
no,
to be able
you
to
would
speak Russian to recognize Russian.
no. Oh wow. No, because it's not a language that gets used in public ever.
Okay.
Um
So you're describing the tone?
yeah, so the tone is it's gleefully hateful. Like it's it's you get that sort of like out of it, right? Even though that's not what you hear, but that's a tone to it. And you hear some like as things are shifted and closed inside this this room.
Okay, I want to come and get inside. No, as I recall, that's at the last car or the second last car where this area is. We can't get into.
This is the very last car.
Right.
This is the one that has the slightly larger than every other car except for the VIP walk around, right? It has an oversized door, but still just a door, with like normal sort of hinges on it, but it's an iron door, and a very hefty looking locking mechanism / doorknob to it.
Are there windows going
No.
into?
Not into
There's
this
no
car.
windows at all.
No. This is the one that was described to you earlier as containing everyone's. This is where your stuff is that you weren't allowed to have on board the train.
Right, and my understanding is no one is supposed to be in here.
Correct.
At least
That would
my
be
understanding.
a very,
So I'm going to go back to the door. I'm going to like just go back along the top of the car and come down to where the door to this is. Is there still a guard there?
No,
since
no,
this murder has occurred?
that guard is somewhere in the train.
All right, if I'm sure there's someone in here and there's no one around, I'm going to try and pick the lock on this thing.
All right, go ahead. You're looking for a DC 17.
Sleight of hand is my expertise, so come on, baby. We see 12 plus 6, 18 is what I got.
Okay, so you get it, right? And it's one of those things that as you start the process of picking the lock, you start getting cocky. This is too easy. Like, what a bunch of chumps the way they built it. And then it occurs to you that it's meant to feel that way, right? And so you slightly change your tact just as you see this needle start to slide out of the lock towards your eye.
Okay, so that puts me suspicious, and I'm going to see if there's a trap on here.
Okay.
On this door.
Go ahead.
So I guess that's perception.
I actually think you can find traps using your thief tool proficiency now.
Okay, I got 22 then.
Yeah, so it is definitely trapped. As you know the door's unlocked, right? You know you bypassed a trap inside the lock, right? It's one of those ones that's meant to shoot a needle out into the eye of the person who's watching what they're doing.
And it's the lock that's trapped and not the door. Right?
You also noticed that the hinges of the door are likewise trapped. Okay.
I'm going to back up 30 feet, and then I'm going to cast Mage Hand, and my Mage Hand is invisible, and I'm just going to have it gently just open the door.
Okay. Can you make me a reflex save? Well, let me ask you this. Did you back up in a straight line because you can't get 30 feet away? or did you back up
I went
around the
back
corner?
as far as I could go away, and like, you know what I mean, like as much as I could shield myself,
Right.
as if I was dropping a hand grenade. You know,
Right.
like,
So you're
whatever's
not
there.
in a straight line from the door then.
No. I'm
Okay.
trying to be as.
So no reflex save needed. The door blows off and is launched hard enough that it tears through the railing of this car, and you see it go flying
Crap.
off to the field.
Oopsie.
There is
So-
this noxious fume of smoke that comes out of it. Even though you are not engulfed in it, it's still enough to get you that sort of. So pause right there. At the front of the train, she says, "It's obviously a summoner." And then at that exact moment, you guys hear boom from the back of the train. And as you look, you see this door go ass over tea kettle out into the field. And she bullies past you, drawing her sword as she does, and trucks over this the young lady, the Althanian wannabe. She just trucks over her as you see that young girl peeking around the corner, trying to see, like, trying to get a glimpse of what's going on up with the Althanian's car. Because why wouldn't she? This lady is, she just bowls her over as she goes hauling tail towards the back of the train.
I just kind of step aside to kind of step out of her way and I go, hey, jeez.
As she comes by, Alex, the hairs on your arm stand up.
Like, is it electricity or is it more just magic or
Yes.
both? Magic,
Well,
electricity.
your brain says magic, but you don't have that ability to detect magic like that. But you get that same feeling that you do when you cast spells. In fact, all of you who are magically attuned get that same sort of feeling as she runs back. Hugo, what are you doing?
I'll draw like this wide bladed dagger from my belt and follow after her.
Okay.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I as soon as she goes by, I was gonna try and talk to her, and she takes off. So I was like, "Here we go again," and I start going down the train, length of the train again.
All right, are you going? All right, who's going through? Who's going around? And who's going over?
I will go whichever way is quickest. So I'm assuming just going around to be quicker.
Well, maybe following her, she just bowls everyone over. Out
Right?
Of the way.
Yeah. I guess. Yeah. Let her be the quarterback and just knock everyone out of the way. So, yeah, I'll just jog kind of in line behind her. Yeah, excuse us. I'll kind of apologize for her in her wake. It's like, excuse us. Business here. Train business. Look out.
All right.
Path. Make a hole.
What about you, Didrog? What are you doing?
As she's approaching me, I'm just going to stand there. I'm going to stand in the middle of the cotton-picking walkway with the club, with the cane in one hand. Hey, Dame, what the heck do you think you're doing?
All right. Well, you can make me a
I know.
strength check.
Shove.
Right now.
I kind of wince, like, ooh.
Yeah.
This is gonna be ugly.
Make the strength check here.
By the way, are you still recognizable as you, or did you change that much where I would not recognize you now, or is it more just
if you are looking for it to be me, it is me. If it's just a casual glance, this guy is slightly shorter, slightly thicker, and the hair is a mess.
So friends and relatives would recognize you, but not necessarily a casual acquaintance. Okay, got
it.
So you're looking for a contested 20 at this point. She rolled well.
No, she didn't. You did.
Thanks for that. While we're figuring this out, Thagris, what are you doing? Or Thargus, what are you doing?
No way. 8.
Okay. Can you give me a quick reflex save?
19.
Okay, so she as you're standing in the platform between the two train cars, she checks you hard enough that it sends you over the railing. Like she gives that little, but anyone who sees it, you see him go over the railing and then in almost like the pommel horse sort of way, like from the gymnastics. Like he just palms his way like around and swings his legs back to standing on the interior of the train. Like he was out of the train for a moment, grabbed onto it, and then very acrobatically put himself back onto the train. Not to say there wasn't a moment in your brain where you're like, and this is where I die.
So now I probably know who he is.
I mean, maybe. Like... I presume at that point you were going to follow her after putting yourself back onto the train.
Oh, yeah.
Oh yes, most definitely.
Fargus, are you also proceeding that direction?
Yes, but I'm following up in the rear because it would be unseemly for me to wear my bloodied and stained jerkin and walk through the train. So as I'm going, I'm like unbuttoning it and trying to cast it aside before I handle it. Yep.
You easily accomplish that. So I guess you're bare chested by the time we get to this the end of this. The dashing hero and his as you're bringing up the tail end and that the young lady is still inside, not this young lady, that one is still inside sobbing over the body of this statue. The dwarf, the angry looking dude, bursts in and kind of, what is all of this? You stop! And no one listens as you're all going that direction. And you just hear, and he starts berating this woman who is crying. And then you hear him.
She's had a bad day, man.
You hear him scream as he realizes that the most important passenger that he's aware of on his train is dead. And you kind of catch out the tail end of it that the sobbing woman is like, please stop the train. Just stop it. And he just goes, impossible. And that's the last you hear of that as you guys are all moving towards the back. Now, we jump back towards the smoke is finally filtering out back there, Wolfram. Mm-hmm. And it's acrid, right? There's a very sulfuric smell to it. And you get the feeling that the hinge trap may not have been part of the design of the door, right? It's got this sort of sulfuric, acidy, amateurish feel to it and smell to it, right? But the smoke is finally clearing out. You can hear people going, you can hear a tea cart just in the dining car behind you as Aquila, although she hasn't given you her name, the redhead just bowls over the butler who is trying to serve tea to people who somehow don't know that all this is going on, which is amazing in and of itself. But so the smoke clears, you're kind of tucked around the corner. It's gone dead silent back there, except for the of wind and wheels back here. Aside from being at the engine, this is probably the most cacophonous point of noise on the train, as there's nothing buffering you any longer from the wind.
Well,
also the railing is now whistling as the wind goes across this open piping that is the railing. You hear, okay, it's this horrible noise.
So I know there's going to be people coming to investigate, but the reason I did this was to see who was inside. So while I have a few seconds before anyone else gets here, I'm going to look inside to see if I can see the source of this, cursing I've found inside this.
All right. So when you peer inside, what you see are 6 different shelving units with different bits of luggage or gear or perhaps wrapped paintings or jars, right? So very well put up. There is rope in front of them, sort of pushing them against the walls of the train, right? So when you're looking in the door, let me see if I can get this up on paint real fast. Forgive me for the crude and quickness of this, right? So
who's got the barking dog?
My dad. Well, my mom has the barking dog.
Just mute when you're not talking.
We have this, right? So shelving unit, shelving. These are all against the wall. Just ignore the fact I can't do what I'm doing.
That's cool. Oh, I see. I was picturing the door at the end.
No, it's like this, right? And then you have this much larger shelving in the center where you can, it's shelving here, shelving here, shelving here, so on and so forth. In the back corner, okay, that turned green. In the back corner, you have these areas like boxes and stuff that are set up so that, why do you hate me, game? So you have the boxes back here. Nope, not angled. Okay, we get the idea.
Yeah, I got it.
Right, so you have boxes back this direction. And multiple boxes back over here, multiple boxes back in this corner, some boxes in this corner. It's enough that you can get through, but everything's only maybe like a 3-foot wide corridor of junk, right? And the railing itself was, out here. Okay. Nothing is to scale. And you earlier were in this, when you blew off the door, you were back here. This is the same area that you heard the talking inside this room, right? So
okay. So I don't really want to go in the room. What I want to do is block the doorway and see if I can see the source of this talking.
Okay. So as you sort of block the door and
I'm like literally like kind of
right, you're not entering. It's dark. There is no light in here other than what is coming in from you. So you cast this very large, imposing shadow across the floor, but you don't see anything. Nothing immediately stands out as being disturbed.
Okay.
And there's no obvious like foots in the dust prints. Wait a second, no. Footprints in the dust. Shut up, Rob.
Okay. I didn't say anything.
I know, but I knew you heard the foots in the dust prints.
It's okay. So I know what's coming. So really what I want to do is I want to take a disarming pose, if you will, like a non-threatening pose, but continue to block the doorway and wait for authorities to arrive.
Okay. So
I just imagine him, standing trying to look someone who's not comfortable looking casual, like with his hands up, like trying to whistle, like.
Well,
really
I don't want to seem like I'm unaware of the fact that the door just went flying out.
That's what I imagined when you said that.
I was like that when I got here.
All right. So as you you stand there, you hear nothing. Like whatever is or was in here is obviously aware that the doors come off, right? Or blown up, and maybe is aware you're there. Like you haven't seen like any like eyes peeking out or anything, but you do all of a sudden hear tromp, 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 as like half of the constituent from the train has come running this direction. The first one to arrive there obviously is Aquila, which is the lady in red, right? I believe followed closely by probably like
Icarus.
almost equal amounts, like Icarus, Dirtirog, and Hugo. And then finally coming through the door is a bare-chested Thargus. And they all kind of like, some of them are coming around the train, some of them are coming over the train, like, but all of a sudden reinforcements are here, and she pulls out her sword, and you get that sort of singing sword like that, shing, as she levels it at you.
Okay,
and
so
go, what are you doing?
I'm going to do this. Stay your hand, my lady. You can arrest me if you will, but there is someone in this room, and I heard them in this room. So whatever you do, secure this room.
So she moves up and looks in, and it's dark, so she sees about as much as you did.
Okay.
And she just jams, like, while keeping her head sort of in this room, just jams her hand out backwards, snaps her fingers, and is like, torch, lantern, something.
All right, I will produce a lantern. I have one. Hand it to her.
Walking around with a lantern from the train. Fair enough. Whatever.
I will try and describe the sounds I heard to her.
Okay.
The language as best I can, imitating it. And
so
and I will also mention the creatures that we saw on the train, the scratch marks, and further I will gesture and produce an image of the creature that I saw fall off the train.
Right. So she hisses kind of and goes, goblins. Damn. And she pulls her sword in front of her in a semi defensive, and she moves into the cart, waving over her shoulder to you as you have the light, like beckoning you into this room. This room is large enough to hold everybody, but again, outside of this front area right here, like, all of this is like 3 foot wide at best.
Steve, quick question. The center green square, that's another shelving space.
It is.
How far up to the ceiling does it go?
So you have about 3 feet between the top of it and the top of the ceiling. This, like the old school pictures of a caboose where they had that like little bit of a second story to it. This has a little bit of a second story right above this. So it's like a 5.5 foot tall cabinet with like a 3 foot space between its top shelf and the roof.
Okay, but if it's got goods on it, they're stacked up even higher than that.
Right. And so in places it's not, and in places it is. Like, it's just kind of, if you're just talking shelving to roof, about 3 feet. You're talking like from the tallest box to the top of the roof, 4 inches.
Okay, thanks.
I'm going to watch her back. I'm going to have a cantrip at the ready, but I'm also kind of playing goalie with this door to make sure no one gets past me. She's coming out anyway.
So the rest of you are stuck outside. Okay.
I'll let people in. Not in.
Right. All right. So is anyone else going in?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm gonna shadow her right in. Like,
I heard a yes from everybody except for possibly Thargus.
I'm shirtless. I'm not going in there.
That's you. I don't blame you. I know it's about to happen.
That's perfectly fair.
Okay. So as she goes in there, right? In Hollywood fashion, as you enter this particular room, the whistling of that broken railing pipe outside goes away. Like, you can hear it faintly in the back, right? The whipping wind goes away. You can hear it faintly in the back. What you become very well aware of is the sort of shink, shink of her armor. You become very well aware of the sound of your own heart and your breathing, and perhaps the annoyingly loud breathing of the other people that are also in here. The scraping of perhaps all of them except for Dirtirog, who doesn't ever seem to misstep. Like, he doesn't drag his heels at any point. And I maybe maybe Wolfram doesn't either. Almost like they're
Yeah, I forget to slide
accustomed
on my
to
feet.
moving quietly. This might also, if you guys want to take a moment, be the first time that collectively you guys can see the, I don't want to say battle prowess, but if you have martial training, this might be the first time that we see those characters adopt that sort of stance for the moment. So, you know, if anybody has martial, maybe we see that. And then we hear there's a slight rustle back towards the green boxes, which have a slight tarp over them, and a stereotypical like pirate chest, if you know what I mean by that, like that sort of like dome top chest. There are two of those over there. The tarp kind of for a moment, and she goes shh, and she begins to try and sneak. Go ahead, please.
Well, sneaking might be an issue momentarily. So like when there's a rustling from this tarp and she shushes us, even though she's got this,
possible.
Even though she's got this lantern.
Well, the lantern's held by Wolfram at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Wolfram. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Yeah.
So the lighting situation here is still fairly minimal. Is that?
It's only minimal in that. Yes, you have like a 30-foot ball of light that comes from a lantern, right?
Yeah.
So everything is illuminated, but also cast in these huge shadows from this center rack, right? So like there are moments where you look over and you're like, but it's just a shadow of a box with a bowling ball. That sounds terrible, but a round object on top. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Like,
yeah.
Okay. So then to your point about like martial prowess and like adopting a combat ready stance. So Hugo is unarmored, of course, and except for the dagger, unarmed. And so he had been sort of like running with it out, but like keeping it like close to, you know, his forearm so as not to like stab himself or someone else by accident. Should he have tripped or fallen. But at this point, like he'll like as she's ducking to sort of crouch walk up to this thing to remain as silent as possible. Like I'll do the same thing and like try to go the opposite direction if that's possible.
It is. So let me just all right. So red will be her, right? Coming
sense.
around this side. Purple we'll use as Wolfram, if that's okay. So he'd be second, right?
I feel like
I was by the door.
Probably needs to be purple, but that's just.
I kind of want to be opposite where the boxes are in that one corner. I'm kind of at that angle by the door.
So over here.
Right.
Okay, we can do that.
All right.
So we'll do you as yellow instead. Chicken. But you also have the light, so that makes sense, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm playing goalie, right?
Right. That's completely fine. And then we have so Hugo's going around this way then.
Yeah.
All right. Everyone point your screen. I'm just kidding. So Icarus, I'll do you as gray. Top, bottom, left.
Well, I'm gonna be about 10 feet behind her.
Hereish.
So yeah, so I'm kind of backing her up basically. Okay. I have my my little side hammer out.
All right. Jared Rock.
Put me forward of Hugo and either just ahead or just behind her position. So on the opposite side.
Maybe over here?
Yeah.
All right. So getting past each other on any of these sides is rough. It's about 3. You can do it, right? But if you do it in combat, if there's a combat, there is you'll be at disadvantage for that attack. Like you can move past each other, but because you have to kind of chest bump to get past, or butt bump, or however you do it. All right. Yeah. Alex, I saw you want to cast a spell before anything happens. This would be that moment.
Okay. Well, actually, I wanted to kind of cast it on the way in, like when I see, because I wasn't sure where everyone was, so it was kind of tell. So when I see Wolfram sort of stop just inside the door there, and kind of hold, I assume he's kind of holding the lantern up to kind of cast as much light as possible. As I'm kind of walking past him, I say, I have my holy symbol, and I kind of push it, I point it towards him, and I say, "Don't worry, I've got your back." And I kind of turn it in front of him, and this kind of little glowing, representative of the symbol sort of cranks in front of him. You see all this sort of gears and things turning, and this kind of shimmering sort of appears around you, sort of vague shimmering for a moment. Shield of Faith gives him a +2 to armor class.
Okay, great. Excellent. So that pink line denotes if it's inside the pink triangle, it is well lit. If it is outside that pink triangle, due to the that big shelf in the middle, it is in shadow. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I assume though it's enough light where those of us that have dark vision, are okay.
Yeah, so everyone's okay. The only part that is truly like difficult to see is right in here, right? Because it's dead opposite that. But it's only that spot, like past it, it's still illuminated because it's reflecting off of crap down here, so on and so forth. And there are more boxes down in this. I keep pointing at my screen. There's more boxes down in this area, and there are a few boxes up here, but this area is pretty open. So can everyone give me a perception check? Rob, you'll be at disadvantage. Dirtarog and the lady in red will be at advantage. Everyone else is normal.
7.
Okay. 19.
23.
24.
Okay. So everyone except for Wolfram, which kind of makes sense at this point, sees that one of the chests. What's that?
But I'm blind as a
okay,
bat.
so you don't see it. All right, so everyone else sees the chest that is right in this area here, open slightly, and this twig-like, no, that's a bad word. This green, thin, wispy finger sticks out from it. These beady golden eyes, you can see them inside, reflecting in the same way like maybe like a cat's eyes would catch light. And it utters something in Goblin, and this thick, almost gelatinous goo leaps from its finger and covers the lady in red. And you hear her start, and she'll take some damage from poison spray. And then the lid and closes.
What is that chest made out of, by the way?
It is a banded iron chest, so it's wood, but it is banded with iron.
Awesome. Okay.
All right, so everyone wants to give me an initiative order here. Just roll your initiative for me.
Oh, I'm wasting all my good rolls. 20 even.
Okay.
I'm gonna roll rocks when the time comes.
13.
Okay.
19.
What was yours, Rob?
13.
Okay, perfect.
And I had a total of 5.
Okay. All right, cool. So we got that. Sorry about that. I just need to download an electronic tracker. All right, so Icarus, go ahead.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So as soon as I see that and I see her, I still have my weapon in my right hand, but in my left hand I hold up the holy symbol, and I point towards it. And in concentration, I turn, muttering, and twist it in the air. And for a moment, you hear this kind of like this faint creak of metal, almost like, and it gets a little bit louder, and you can see the bands of iron on this chest begin to glow slightly. And pretty soon they're this cherry red as they get hot. And it's all basically all of the bands on the front of this chest just get, like I said, cherry hot. And
Is that like heat metal?
yeah.
Okay. Awesome.
Which, if the rest of the chest is wood, there's a good chance it could set the chest on fire. And if the bands kind of translate to the inside in any way, in any case, it's gonna get hot in that chest pretty damn quick.
Right. I just
Even if it's not taking
so I
direct
got
damage.
all right, cool. So go ahead, do me a favor. Go ahead and roll 2d8 and just quarter your result for me.
Oh, sure.
Adding, of course, any normal modifiers you would. And just holler at me what you got. Dirgrog,
Yeah.
you don't necessarily see the finger point out, but you do hear the goblinish spell being cast. You hear Aquila cry out in not pain but instantaneous sickness, and you hear the tuk of the lid and the of a lock. What you doing?
Takes by the way, damage is 3.
Nice. All right, great.
Yeah. Continue to approach right up to this glowing box.
Okay.
And since he's heated all the metal, the lock is sort of obvious. And I'm simply
as a side effect, that's casting light too. So
sure.
In that corner now.
So I'm going to take a swing at the lock itself.
Okay. With your club.
With my club.
All right, great. Go ahead and do that. Hugo, what are you doing? Like, I mean, these numbers are so close; it's almost like simultaneous action.
13 to hit.
All right, you'll hit the lock. There's not really sundering anymore, so there's not really. All right, so I'm gonna do that and that. Go ahead and give me damage. I'm gonna give you advantage on your damage roll. I know it's not a normal thing, but re-roll your damage. Take the higher
result. Just a crit damage then. Just a crit.
Yeah, crit damage. That works. Yeah, do crit damage.
If it's crit damage, it's 10.
Okay, great. I was just trying to figure out how you would, if the metal's heated, it's more prone to breaking, so on and so forth. All right, cool. So you see the lock does not break, right? Because it's built into the box. Instead, what you see is it depresses and malforms, and you hear a snapping that you probably think is okay. The lock broke. Others of you who are proficient at getting past locks, I won't point fingers, are aware that a lock just broke. Hugo, what you got going on?
I'll just push up beside Dirgrog and sort of wait for whatever's in this box, presumably a gerblin, and like sort of hovering over this thing with like my dagger at the ready, like hold my action basically.
You guys are the same size, I promise.
Yeah. No, he's really big and I'm really tiny for a human. But no, yeah, I'm just gonna hover over this thing, like kind of like ready to like just stab it the moment it pops its bony little hand out again or something.
Okay. So that's right? Yeah. All we don't have up there is the light, but we know where that's at. All right, great. So you can hear kind of an uncomfortable shuffling inside the box, right? And Aquila just
By the way, Steve, this Steve, real quick, just so you know, this heat lasts for about a minute. So
okay, so 10 rounds, great.
Yeah, so, and I'm just I have to concentrate on it, but that's what I'm doing that. So
okay, Aquila, the lady in red, she steps up and she says 9 hells, and she just rams her sword through the top of. Well, she's gonna try. She rams her sword into the crate. Don't know that she'll necessarily ram it through it. Nope, she sinks her sword into it. In almost that sort of like magician trick, right, where they like run swords into the box that, and you hear this sort of hit, and you don't hear a scream of pain, so presumably she missed. But her sword is buried in this box. Wolfram, what do you want to do?
I'm going to basically, I want to ready an action, and the action I want to ready is I got a cantrip that I'm going to cast if anything tries to flee past me.
Okay.
These guys seem to have the situation well in hand. This is the only exit as far as I know. I will guard the exit.
Wonderful. Does your device work at spell casting or only sustained magic? Okay, great.
Only items.
Only items.
Or permanent, like
Oof. What's the
if there was a door that had 30 feet, if there was a door that had a spell on it, like a permanent spell on it, it would pick that up. You know what I mean?
Sure. Hi, doggo. I wasn't clapping for you, I promise. Okay. So inside the box, Hugo, you hear something that makes you entirely uncomfortable. So this goblin voice shifts from moaning in goblin and perhaps complaining to incanting. That's not a word.
Yeah, I think it is.
Incanting a spell that shifts from goblin straight into abyssal. And you're muted, so I couldn't hear your reaction to that.
Yeah,
but,
so I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, when I hear that, so these iron bands, like, they wrap around the chest, they wrap over the top of the chest,
yeah,
and,
yeah,
like, clamp the lid down, right? Like,
yeah, stereotypical. Yep.
Okay. This railing here, this orange line is the railing.
Mm-hmm.
The other side of that railing is like the ground whizzing past us, right?
That's 100% correct. The only thing is with that railing right now is
it's like broken right there.
Entire section is missing.
All right, perfect. So I yell move, and I grab this superheated chest, and I run it out of the room.
So you can do that on your action. We're still
I don't get to interrupt with my held initiative.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Yeah, you sure do. Go for it.
Okay.
Alex, roll damage.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, let me know how much damage I take. And wouldn't 2d8 quarter just be a d4?
It would, but you know.
Yeah, but it's more fun rolling 2 dice. 10.
Fair enough.
10 points of damage.
So you're not wearing any sort of armor, correct? That
is correct.
So you will take 10 points of damage as you grab this box.
Okay.
Is at this moment, the box is heavy, right? So the chest itself probably weighs, I don't know, what would a chest like that weigh? 40 pounds probably? Easily. And then a 35-pound thing inside of it, so 75 pounds of 1,500 degree heated metal sucks.
Yeah. I've actually
as you grab it is that exact moment that the heat has finally reached that point that it starts to smolder and flame starts licking up from the thicker bands that surround the lip of the chest and the lip of the lid where they meet, right? This thing inside of it is also you can tell it's huddled itself to one corner.
And, so it's all lopsided, like it's all
right. Yeah, so it's heavy on one side, and like I don't know if you've ever put a cat in a cardboard box to try and take it to the vet. I learned that trick after not putting the cat in the cardboard box and trying to take over a car while we were still driving. No lie.
Yep.
So but you know how like they
Here's the
move
tell.
inside there to make your life difficult? This thing is doing the exact opposite, right? But you can feel through the vibration of the wood that something is being etched on the inside of this box. So I mean, in your mind's eye in the camera, you can see this bony finger using this jagged nail and just carving these obscene runes into the bottom of this chest. Then we jump to so you're running it out. The only person that could possibly interfere with you would be Thargus, right? Because his initiative will happen about the same time you get to the door. As you like go toting this thing out, you're gonna be able to make it out in your move. So unless Thargus interrupts you somehow, you will get all the way outside and be able to launch this box from the train. So Thargus, unless you're gonna screw his plans,
Thargus has far too much self-preservation to stand in the way of.
Right, so Thargus, you're on the outside. So you and Wolfram get this horrible view of this sort of uplit face of Hugo. Hugo, do you have facial hair?
Yeah, he's got like some stubble.
Did you formerly have facial hair?
Right. That was kind of the question, right? So like you can see like the you're wearing robes, right? Sort of aesthetic robes.
Yeah, aesthetic robes. Like they look, well kempt, but yeah.
You can see those begin to smolder, right, just from the contact. Because I would imagine with this much weight and uncomfortable, like you have to hold it close to yourself so you don't lose control of it. Not on yourself. Yeah. You're not burning your chest or your gouye or anything. But
I mean, he might be. I mean, I've personally been branded before. Like I know what like hot ass metal against your flesh feels like. Having worked in kitchens, but also like having just been branded.
His clothes are probably like catch a bit of fire right now.
So what you're saying is that some cowboy somewhere has marked you as his property?
Yes.
Fair enough. But yeah, so you can see this uplit, from underneath the chin, this ghastly red light lighting the face of someone who's obviously in pain as he's holding this box. And it's probably one of the more disturbing sights that you've seen, at least recently, Wolfram, as he comes past you. I know you were holding a spell. I don't imagine you're letting it loose on him.
I'm tempted, but I will wait until he gets rid. It could kind of help him. I stick on my leg and trip him. No, I'll let him go. But I've still got this spell at the ready as soon as because I'm imagining he's going to throw the box.
Right. So all I would like, Ken, is can you make me a dexterity save, DC 10, just to not launch yourself from the train as you try and do this?
Okay.
I can try. I rolled a 17 plus 1 is 18.
Okay, so you get out there, and there's almost a divine moment, right? You get out there, and it's this picturesque scene of the Storm Maw Mountains, as you are now officially in the Kingdom of Kor, right? You see these, and they're backlit by this the bay, or the ocean behind them, so you can see the blue of that. And the sun warms your back. You may not feel that because the front of you is so warm at the moment. And then the sort of golden fields that are the plains out here. And there's that sort of like, moment as you release this, which is rapidly interrupted as the flesh is torn from your hands and arms where it was gripped onto the metal of this box. All that's accounted for in your 2d10 or your 2d8 damage you took earlier. But it's just there are like scorch marks on your clothing and now scarring. Yeah, will be scarring on your hands as this box goes sailing out. And I'll give you a high-low here. You want high-low?
I mean high always.
Okay, the 2. So
perfect.
You hear the spell complete. As this box goes flying out, it crashes into the tall grass with a sort of and then immediately as the dry grass hasn't rained in this part in a while, just catches ablaze.
And
you burn down all of Kor. and now we know the reason you're all leaving. No, the grass
I
really
foresaw this in
does
advance.
catch, and you briefly smell the acrid smell of burning flesh. I mean, momentarily, the train's whizzing 40 miles an hour, up this line here. And for a moment, there's a brief respite as the box goes flying. Is there anything you wanted to add to that, Wolfram?
Just as an after thing, once he's released the box, how badly does Hugo seem to be burning?
I mean,
Like,
I
is
would
he still
would
burning?
I would guess
well,
at this
it depends. If his clothes are wool, he's probably fine. They probably stopped. They probably just are smoldering now that he's let go of the box.
I would think guessing at hit points, like from that sort of description, he looks badly burned.
Yeah, I imagine that like the
Go ahead.
where the iron bands wrapped around this chest and like where they came into contact with my clothing, like there's been like a mirror image or a negative image of those same bands like burned into the clothing, and like my skin there is, probably pretty severe second, if not maybe like some black soot, like from where it's like where the iron or whatever has like charred my flesh or seared it, like you would if you dropped like a piece of meat or something like that in a really hot skillet or a really hot cast iron pan.
But you're not aflame, like you're not actually on fire, or your clothes aren't burning or anything like that.
No.
I mean, I didn't think I was on fire. I thought like maybe my clothes are like, how like clothing when it's burned, but it just kind of goes out, gets that like crispy edge to it. Or
I would imagine that maybe like in like the if let's say that the weight was to the right, maybe like in the lower right part of his ribs where he held it closer, it burned through his clothing, so there's a bit of a hole there. But there's nothing like currently ablaze. Like there's still a little bit of smoke and maybe like the red tendrils of a woolen fiber still embering, but he's not ablaze.
Okay, so I'm not a healer, so I don't know how best to respond to this. So I'm going to just
Throw water on him.
almost. So I reach up and I grab a blanket that's on one of the shelves,
Sure.
and I pull it down, and I'm going to hit it with a ray of frost, and then I'm going to like wrap it around him.
Okay. Yeah. Cool. Literally.
Yeah, I hope so.
All right. So in all of this, this moment, Akila is still hacking, right? You can see Icarus. You can see these tenderly green lines begin to run the same way that her veins are running, right? Like almost like her veins are being dyed green. She's still hacking. She's very, very well aware. She's not like disabled. I mean, maybe. But she is looking painfully out the door in the direction that her sword now is. In a box that way. And she looks at you. She draws a dagger, or a large dagger, a small short sword, her offhand weapon.
Yeah.
And she says, "There'll be more."
We'll be ready. That.
So with that, you hear a tunk tunk on the roof of the train. Those of you outside turn to see these two fiendish wolf-like forms, not invisible this time. Their claws are bent. They're hooked into the metal that is the roof of this. They're latched on. They're slathering, looking at you. And there is something not right about, more so not right about them than their existence. They look deformed. They look like They look like a child drew his nightmare of a hellhound. Right? So they're jagged, they're not fleshy in shape. And they begin to stalk similarly the way that cats do, one each direction. So one towards the butt of the train, one towards the front of the train. They stalk to the edge, and the one that is heading towards the front, you see him leap across. He lands on the next car, so clearing, 9 feet. He lands on the next car. He turns around snarling. The other one does that. You've ever seen a cat when they drop down from a shelf where they lean forward and put their paws on the wall or the rest of the bookcase before they jump down? So they're like 90% hunched over. That's what this thing does before it lowers itself, just drops itself with this sickening tink tink as its clawed feet hit the railing. And so Icarus, you don't see that, but you hear it. What are you doing?
I am. I'm going to shout out. Just this isn't over yet, and I'm going to head out towards where the door is.
All right.
And because they're outside at this point, so
they are.
I'm gonna head over to the doorway.
Cool.
Well, actually, scale. It's kind of hard to tell scale in this. How far is it to
your scale? What?
Okay. How far is it? Okay.
How far is it to?
Well, I mean, if I can make it to the door and do some kind of action, I will. But
yeah, you can.
Most okay. Definitely. Yeah. And can I see these things from the doorway?
The one that you can see from the doorway is the one that's off the map currently here, over this early direction, on top of the roof of the next cart. This one has dropped down over here, and so a little bit harder to see.
Okay, but so I'll get to the door. I'll glance up and see that one, and I'm just gonna have my hammer out and offering a prayer. All the tiny little tiny little thin lines and etchings on it glow momentarily, and the hammer just sort of gets this faint sort of shimmer to it as I imbue it with magic. And I'm going to I'm going to wait with Wolfram at this point. Wait by the door. I figure if they're going to come after us, we can defend this doorway from in here.
Okay. So Dirty Rog.
Actually, I'm going to move more towards the lady in red.
So are you going back inside? But she's still inside.
I never came out.
Okay, great. I forgot.
I never came out. I never moved from the position after smashing it, and Hugo pushed past and grabbed the box. So I'm actually backing her direction because I figure there's more goblins somewhere else up front. And I'm simply backing over her.
Make me do this again. Okay. That's fine. So she's up here somewhere. This is not the most effective way of doing this. I apologize.
And they're on the next car, to the.
So one is right here.
Okay.
And one is on the car that's off map. Yes.
Okay.
Icarus, you stepped outside, right?
Yeah.
And then I don't remember everyone else's color, but whatever. Vargas, you're now pink because I don't remember what color you were. All right. So anyway, there we go. So inside and outside, right? So you move towards her. Like I said, you can see the spread of this poison in her veins, right? It's a bit harder to see in the shadow, but even in the darkness, there's almost this luminescence to her veins that are carrying this toxin through her system. But she still looks hardy, right? Like, I mean, she doesn't look hurt, she just looks sick. If you can imagine like a professional wrestler or MMA fighter who's gone through a couple rounds of chemo, right? They still got a lot of mass to them. They still look alive, but there's definitely a sickness about them. That's kind of how she looks at the moment. And a little Christmassy with the green and red. So Hugo, you've launched this box. You are in pain, but nothing you haven't experienced before in one form or another through your training in life. And you see this monster leap from the top of the train to the top of the other train car. The other one, like I said, lopes. That's a good word. Lopes down to the railing, the platform that goes around, and is more or less in the vicinity. The other one's like over here-ish. What do you got going on?
Okay. And Icarus, are you like in armor?
No,
I'm
none of you are.
I'm wearing like a leather armor, if that's what you're asking.
I think he said Icarus. Icarus is not armored.
Icarus.
Okay, sorry.
Wolfram is wearing leathers. Durdarog is unarmored. Thargus is half naked.
Okay. And at the moment, he's alone on this other train car with this mutated hell beast situation.
No. So you guys, everyone is still on the same train car, right? I just blew it up so we could see the railings around. So this is
train car. Okay.
One wolf jumped over here, right? One's here. Icarus is behind you, haven't come out that door.
My mistake. I got the names mixed up. That's my fault. So Wolfram is over here, correct?
Wolfram is still barely inside the door with his.
Never mind.
The one who didn't come inside earlier was Thargus.
Right. No. I thought somebody like went across to follow this other hellhound.
No. Alex came out and asked if he could see it, and I said the one he could see was on the other side because he couldn't see the one that was behind the wall to him.
Right. So there's like a 9-foot gap between the two cars.
Right. Yeah. There's basically from wall to wall of the train cars is 9 feet. It's really like roof to roof. It's about 7 feet because they have that little bit of an overhang on each side, right? And then you have that train car connection that's a 3-foot wide path from both sides before you. So you have like 3 foot here, a little bit more, 3 foot worth of train, and like 3-ish feet over here, a little bit more.
Is the one thing that's over on that side of the train, is it still visible to me or no?
Yeah, it's prowling, stalking out from that corner. So yes, like it's not really there. Because I have it inside the car because I'm retarded. It's actually over here and over here.
Okay.
So it's outside, but it's moving this direction. So yes, you can see it beginning to prowl around the corner there.
Then I'll get to the other side of the shirtless Thargus.
So up here?
No, the other side. Between he and the hellhound on the right hand side of your screen.
So you want to go over to here?
Correct.
Gotcha.
And as long as I can maintain like visual line of sight on that thing, then I'm gonna Eldritch Blast it.
So if you go all the way up to here, yeah, I'll give you a shot. So you're gonna move up to here-ish.
Mhm.
And it is currently moving kind of this way, so that's fine. So like basically at that culmination of this point, yeah, you can Eldritch Blast it. Go for it.
Okay. Roll attack. 14 plus my spell attack modifier of. Scroll down to page where I did not put it in. So it's charisma plus 8. Or no, I'm sorry, charisma plus proficiency bonus. So 5. So 19 to
20.
hit.
Okay, yeah, you hit definitely.
Yeah. Okay. And then damage is a D10. Oh shit! 1.
Okay. So
Yeah.
this the I guess the magic sort of coalesces in you, and for those who take that moment to look over, you can see it sort of leap over these burned gashes in his hands and his arms, and because it is this sort of off brand of strange divine magic, which we'll come to learn later, it partially knits some of the wound as it crosses, right? Not healing him, but closing some of that burn. And as it arcs out, it's so faint that instead of this like great blast of eldritch energy or celestial energy, it's this like, it's not a super soaker, it's a Dollar Tree squirt gun, right?
Yeah, like he totally gestures like it's gonna be like
Kamehameha.
wow, right? And then like instead you're left with like
And so what you see is you see this bolt leap out, and as it contacts the body, the being of this hound, it washes over it in that sort of maleficent bright green energy as it turns its head like it's been slapped, right? Because it's force energy, and it turns its head, and you see it wash over in this sort of sickening pale green light, and it bears these fangs that look serrated of all things at you, and it hunkers in that, like I said, in more that predatory cat sort of way than a dog, right? I don't think wolves really like lower as they're stalking, but this thing does, right? It lowers and begins almost that pouncing muscle tension as you can see the horrible muscles knit underneath its flesh. And that will take us to Aquila inside, who looks at you, Dirty Rog, and she there's no fight in here, and she starts to move around, right? She's moving this direction around to get to the door, and as she gets to about here, a small form leaps from the top shelf, dropping in front of her. It is that same sickeningly green skin, bony, knotty elbows, these glaring, hateful golden eyes, and it pulls out these 2 viciously curved daggers. And in this horribly broken Corvite tongue goes, "There's still a fight." That takes us to Wolfram. Wolfram, you can hear this, right? The soft thud of padded feet behind you. You can hear this sickening voice. "There's still a fight."
Well, I have confidence in Dirtereg. So
I'm not laughing at that. I'm just laughing at the fact you're like, nope.
I'm going to step out. Can I see where the second wolf has moved?
So,
so
if you poke your, go back to my green lines here. If you poke your head out this and look this direction, or like actually physically move this way, then yeah, you can see that it's currently in this area.
Okay, so I'm going to take a step just so I can see it, and I make a gesture at it, and I'm going to cast Speak with Animals. And I'm going to say to it, "What do you want here? What do you seek?"
I have to read the spell real fast.
I will read it to you if you like.
Perfect.
I got it already opened. it says, you gain the ability to comprehend and verbally communicate with beasts for the duration, 10 minutes. The knowledge and awareness of many beasts is limited by their intelligence, but at a minimum, beasts can give you information about nearby locations and monsters, including whatever they can perceive or have perceived within the past day. You might be able to persuade a beast to perform a small favor for you at the DM's discretion.
So, so imagine this, right? If you were to speak to a beast, it's like speaking Spanish to Spanish, right? This is like speaking Spanish to Portuguese, right? It's not truly a full-on beast. And what it says back to you is master hates you. And that's kind of, and it's broken. So you definitely gain the knowledge that these are by no means anything near natural. I can still hear you guys, but I gotta let my dog out real fast.
Okay. I will just kind of step back inside the doorway and guard it.
Okay.
A bunch of people outside blocking these wolves already. They got it.
Again, I kind of love the imagery of that. It's like, what do you want? Master hates you. And you're like, okay, duck back inside.
Well, I was hoping for something more useful, but
well, hey.
No, that's fair. That's fair. I can't see the initiative chart, but that takes us to it was its initiative, but it's gone, right?
Yeah.
All right. So
it's Thargus.
Yeah. So I'm gonna give these things rather than re-rolling. I'm just gonna give these things its initiative. This the one on the outside will rush towards Hugo. And it does that thing where it kind of almost snake-like tastes the air as it looks at each of you and then chooses Hugo. Maybe it's because of the polarity of their existence. Maybe it's because he smells like a burnt sausage. But it rushes him, and it is this horrible nails on chalkboard every time one of its paws hits the ground, leaving this just this wood is rended as it just rushes towards you. Hugo, it's gonna miss you horribly. So it rushes towards Ken, who's not there, and misses him. It does that thing like when a dog thinks a door's open, but it's not, and it skids to a stop and whop into the wall next to Hugo. The other one bays, right? Less than a howl, more like that horrible, well, I guess some people like it, that beagle, like, I found what I'm looking. I know that's why I said that. I found what I'm looking for, sort of baying, and it jumps down. And as it does, this one lands with
called a bell.
Whatever. It lands with this unnatural weight on the joining of the two cars. Right, you hear the kink as it hits. You see it flex out these vicious claw talons from its toes, and it grabs the metal, and you can see it begin to bend the little bits of metal that form the grating that you walk across. And it whereas the other one was kind of slinky, this one very forcefully, in a bullish sort of way, plods over towards your train. And as it does, you can see it flexes, and as it flexes, the hair on its back from its tail to its nose stands on end, and it begins to glow with this sort of infernal flame that doesn't exist but does. And it snarls, and it also sticks out this snake-like tongue, tasting the air. It looks around, and you can see its eyes finally settle on Icarus. And there's almost this devilish grin that sets across its face as it just moves towards him with malevolence. Inside this, Ken, you was attacking, you died. No, I'm kidding. The hound that was on the right side over here came whipping around, ran towards you, missed you, and kind of like a dog who runs into a glass door, skids into the wall right near you.
Okay.
So
excellent.
The other one has leaped down. It's now coming towards Icarus And inside, we jump back in. This goblin, this hooded thing, the only thing that can really be seen of its face is occasionally the glint of these yellow teeth and these golden, beady, hateful eyes, small protruding nose sticking out just past the hood. It kind of almost gunslinger-esque flings these daggers around in its hands, so they're no longer held down; they're now held up. So it's less murderous and more stabby. I don't have a better way to describe that. And it lunges for Aquila. So it hits her armor, saving her. You hear this scraping. I know Ken knows what the sound is. Like when you take a knife across one of those steel cutting gloves, that metal on chain sound. You hear that, and you can see it snag into the armor as these probably not designed to be there serrations catch in parts of the chain as it rakes across her. And it's one of those cuts that comes across the gut that if it had made contact with flesh, she would be joining the Althanian with her guts being on the floor. That pops us around to Icarus.
Okay, let's do this. All right, so yeah, as this thing starts moving up, stalking, I don't know where this thing comes from, but it looks kind of nasty. So I just say to it, infernal rather. I say, yeah, prepare to go back to hell, and I'll step forward and I'm going to project a this brilliant beam of light from my hammer as I sort of direct towards this incredibly bright, almost as bright as the sun, sort of ray that reaches out to him. Let me just see if I have to roll for this. I haven't used to spell it. Guiding bolt.
Oh, I love that spell. So yes, you do roll it.
Range attack. Yep. Okay. All right. 16, 5, 21.
To hit, you hit.
Okay. All right. And I'm actually going to use my second level spell slot for this. So it gives me an extra D6. And this is radiant damage, just FYI.
Yep.
So 10, 20 points of damage.
Okay.
So it's radiant light.
So this blinding light leaps out from your little battle pit in the hammer, and you get that sizzling ozone sound and smell as this, like you said, it's almost as bright as sunlight, just like lasers through the air, striking this creature, and you see it drills into it. Almost identically to the way the poison is coursing through Aquila, you see this immediately rush through the veins, the makeup of this beast, and it bubbles out portions of it, like skin rips, bone moves, like not breaks. It's literally forced into a different portion of this thing's body, and it has that look of vehement hatred replaced with I almost died. If it's that intelligent, and you see it's enough force that it actually halts it in its movement. It has to grip the wooden planking that's on now with these claws to not be forcefully moved backwards by such a massive amount of radiant energy. The flames that were growing from its back just and are extinguished. The drool is replaced with this ichory black blood that begins to drip and pool onto the wooden flooring, slightly eating it away as it touches.
Yeah.
It shakes its head in that dog way of surprise, and it refocuses for a moment. You see that it looks past you through the walls into the room where Aquila is, and there's a moment of it starts to back off, and then it cocks its head and then moves forward anyway.
I as a bonus action, by the way,
Yep.
I save a little bit of that residual energy as the hammer's still glowing from it, and I kind of give it a twirl in my hand, and you see this kind of little spiral of energy going around it, that sort of vaguely resembles a mechanism.
Okay.
And I conjure Searing Smite, so that's a bonus action spell. So it just the hammer's now glowing with sort of this not only this radiant light, but also there's this kind of like white fire sort of peeling off it.
Right.
It
Right.
looks like it's
So
burning.
I imagine like as the hammer sort of spins that way, you like almost like a glow stick. You'd see the trail of energy.
Yeah.
And then it's almost like a cog, right? The way that it looks
Right.
for a moment. Perfect. All right. So Jurdarog.
Look at the goblin and go, that ain't nothing, bum. Your mother was ugly and she puked when she saw you when you was first born. That's vicious mockery. That's an action.
Okay.
Bonus action. I look at Aquila. Now kick his ass, red bitch. And that's
Okay.
bardic inspiration.
All right.
So
So
roll the attack on the vicious mockery.
yep.
Oh Lord, I'm rolling crap tonight.
You don't have to. It just says it's save.
Okay, save DC's 12.
Okay. It rolls a 12, so you see it stops its look at her, turns towards you, and you see it shake its head in that sort of nonsensical get out of my head sort of movement.
Mhm.
And then you are doing bardic inspiration on her.
Yes.
Okay. Gotcha.
And that's she gets a die. Hang on.
4, I think.
Hang on. It's on the other one.
I think it is also die 4.
Oh, die 4 is the vicious mockery.
No, die 6.
Die 6. She gets a die 6 that she adds either to her attack roll or to her damage roll.
Ability check, attack roll, or saving throw.
Okay. So her attack
It's
roll.
not till later that you can do the damage one. That's fine. All right, so you see her posturing change a bit. She looks at you and has the less of a trained soldier, more of a we do this all the time every Saturday night in the bar sort of brawler look to her for a second. And she flips the knife in her hand so that it is blade down her forearm. And she steps back, lowering herself, and is now has her arm extended in that sort of kung fu beckoning. She does the Neo like finger flick towards herself, like, yeah, bring it on. Hugo. Gotta unmute.
So this hellhound now is skidded sort of directly in front of me, correct?
Right. Yeah, he's in the next square, essentially, if we're using a map.
Okay, then I'm gonna use the cantrip Green Flame Blade and strike at this thing with my
Green
dagger.
flame.
Okay. I don't know anything about that spell, so I'll just trust you to hammer it out however it goes.
Okay, do you want me to read it out to you?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
Just describe it to me and roll your damage.
Okay.
Or roll to hit if you have to.
Yeah, I got to roll to hit. It's like an attack roll.
Okay. So AC is only 13 for these things.
Okay. So that hits. So as a part of the action used to cast a spell, you make a melee attack roll with the weapon. So this dagger that he has, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right, but like a Sax, like
Sax.
Sax, yeah. So like it's a Nordic style dagger.
Okay.
It's got a sharp point on the end, but it's also like a very wide blade.
Where it's a leaf blade dagger, right?
No,
Yeah. Oh no, it's not a leaf
no,
blade
it's a
dagger.
clip. It's got a clip point, straight, heavy, single edged.
Okay.
Generally about it looks more like a work knife, but it's just a straight clip blade at point at the front. So it's like at an angle, and the point's down here. The edge runs back from it, and the back is straight and thick.
Yeah, it is this thing on my screen.
There you go.
All right, hold on. So I was googling it, so give me a second to slip back to your screen real fast. Okay, cool. So it's a Nordic Bowie knife.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I like it.
And so this thing like illuminates, obviously with this this sort of same celestial green light, literally a green flame, and as it sort of strikes into this hellhound, you can see like this flame begin to dance across its body, like outward from the wound that it leaves. So there is no other creature with which I choose to wound within 5 feet of me, but like you can see like the flame leap off of the hellhound and sort of dissipate into the air as it does. So it's a D8, I think, right? Yeah, D8 plus weapon damage. Where's my dice roller? So that and that. So 12 points of damage in total.
All right. So as you
half of that is the flame damage. If that helps.
Is it fire damage or is it radiant damage?
It does not say. On a hit, the target suffers the attack's normal effects, and green flame leaps from the target to a different creature of your choice. The second creature takes fire damage equal to your spellcasting modifier.
Fire damage. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's fire damage right there.
All right. So as you plunge it into it, there's this contest of green flame for a moment. It's magical armor and the flame from your dagger. Ouch. Obviously your dagger winning. And you sink it in, and as you sink it in, there's once it gets past the resistance of this armor, there is less resistance than you might expect. So imagine if what you're stabbing into was a pinata, right? The husk of a shape, rather than there being like flesh inside of this. It's almost like this is an animated husk of one of these things.
Okay.
It still takes the damage.
Sure.
It gnashes at you in that, like, I don't know if you've ever accidentally like popped a dog, and instead of like wincing, it snarls back real fast, not knowing what just happened to it. This thing does that exact same thing, and you see that it immediately turns its head to almost like it's trying to lick that wound, right? And you can see that the wound does not, even as you pull the dagger back out, the wound doesn't close. It's very much still there. But there's no black blood leaking from this one. Instead, you can kind of see this wispy green smoke rather than flame, or rather than the energy that it was on its armor. You can almost see that kind of like leaking from it, emanating like if you could color gas from a deflating balloon without the deflation, that's kind of what it looks like, right? It's this gas escaping, I guess is the best way to explain it. So it takes us to Aquila on the inside. She's got the die 6 for her attack. Yeah. She couldn't hit. You threw away her good weapon, man. Yeah. So she rolls a 6 with the bardic inspiration. And so she does that like come get me move, and then she lunges, but it didn't come get her. So she comes up short, right? As she like rakes her arm across. It's I mean, it's bad. It's inches away from her intended target, who kind of throatily like chuckles like at her as it misses. Like, this thing does not seem phased to have two of you in there. Whereas the other one was kind of like creeping and hiding, and Aquila, Wolfram.
All right. This I see her struggling with this super goblin, and so I'm going to come in behind it and stab away or slash away.
Yeah.
I got a 14 plus 4.
18, you'll hit.
Okay. And I do 10 points of damage. Slash. And then I'm going to disengage and move back to the door because I can disengage as a bonus.
Do you get sneak attack damage? Because
I counted it.
Yeah, I'd
Huh?
say he rolled more than one die.
I was counting it.
Oh, okay.
3 plus 3 plus 4.
So as you stab into this thing or slash it, you can feel the resistance of a leather armor underneath of this hooded thing that it's wearing, right? And as you stab into it, it cries out very Gollum Smeagol-esque, like in pain. I'll save you from my imitation. As it wrenches itself, right? It wrenches itself, arching its back, trying to move away from the dagger, and it turns, putting its back towards the shelving, so that now, you moving away is on its right side, and the other two on its left side, but its back's not towards either person. And it hisses, it sees you, and even as you're backing away, you can see this lust in its eyes for it to kill you. Like, it wants nothing more than to murder you right this second. And so, all rationality aside, it cocks back and just hucks one of its knives at you rather than the two people who are literally in its face.
Okay. 16, easy.
19 on the die.
Okay.
So, die 4. Come here, die 4. Someone roll die 4 for me. There we go.
Nope.
3. All right, we got 3. All right, so 3 points of damage, and Rob, if you can make me a Constitution save, DC is only 9.
Natural 20.
Okay, so you can not be affected by the poison from this weapon any longer for 24 hours. But
I'll pull the dagger out of me and pocket it.
Yeah, so that's fine. You get the feeling, like, right, that there was poison on that. You just know that it was a very, like the trap on the door, this was a very amateurish poison. So you begin to think that maybe this goblin is doing a lot of posturing at the moment. Like, maybe it's stalling or diverting your attention from something else. It's kind of that moment of clarity, right? Outside, you guys see this huge shadow start washing over the train as you start passing near the nearest point outside of where you got picked up by the train earlier, the Stormaw Mountains. The grass begins to dwindle away, and to your west, you can see the Badlands, right? There is a sickening line of demarcation where the planes just abruptly stop, and it turns to this grotesque red, ruddy, brownish sand and hard packed dirt where even shrubs and cactus have a hard time growing out here. And you can see that all the way out to, you can see what is this the coast of blood, right? It's where this dirt gets washed out into the bay, and it turns this otherwise crystal blue water into this deep putrid red color, right? And you can barely make that out in the distance. I mean, it's miles and miles and miles away, but you can kind of make it out, and you can start seeing the pillars of stone. You're familiar with them. You've been to Core. You know these are on the outside of it, right? These are actually the things where they found the gate. Blah blah blah. They were once ancient trees, right? This was a swamp at some point with gigantic trees that have since been fossilized. Much like how Althanian dies. And this is the only point where you come this close to the Badlands. It'll start veering away. And there is something unnerving about it in that moment. Maybe it's just the desolation of it. Maybe it's the knowing that you're going to be spending at least the next 16 hours riding alongside this, and off to your east there will be these partial like grasslands and flowing hills, and off to your west is nothing but literally death. Like if you got lost out there, you're going to die. So we see that. Thargus, man, all this is played out in front of you. You're standing out there. There is sweat beginning to build up on your glistening torso now, from both the weather and just the holy crap this is going on. So what's going on?
Well, in light of the of this vast display of magic and energy with Hugo and fighting these flaming beasts and such, instead I'm going to yeah, I thought about that, but Father always says that, you know, better to assess the situation than to get involved and open one's mouth, which I always do. So I'm going to attempt to use some form of investigation, and basically I'm looking at all the chaos, I'm hearing all the noise, and I'm playing back in my mind all the things that have happened, and trying to gain some semblance of there's got to be one thread that weaves through all of this, that, you know, we've got these weird, I don't know what, shadowy beasts and things. So I'm trying to collect some information in my head and put it in order. And I'm like, okay, there's got to be some rhyme or reason for it, and try to figure out like what their plan is, because there was noise in this room, and then they came to attack. But I'm thinking, like, why? Like, what was it? What was their purpose? So, and in a way, that's my character's specialty too. So, I think my character's probably a little bit smarter than I am.
All right, so I'll give you a little bit off of that, right?
All right.
Goblins native to the Badlands, right?
Okay.
The goblins and ogres are the ones who control the Badlands. Okay. Some 30-ish years ago, there was the war between the Arcanum Collegium and the ogres and the goblins that stopped. All of a sudden, in secret, some accord was signed that gave the Collegium Arcanum access to that portal, right? They could study it. And there's never been an offer or a reason brought forth as to why that would have happened. You know that summoning magic is one of the higher art forms, and when it's not, it's frowned upon, right? Because if you don't do it right, you can be like, oh, let me summon this water elemental, and instead you summon a were shark because you didn't quite do it right, right? And as you're kind of sussing this out, you got this hulking, brutish, meaty thing over here, and then this husky. That's can't say it that way. This shell of a beast over here, right? They don't look natural. So it's suffice to say that maybe if the goblins what summoned them, it did not go off as intended. So you got that. And then you get this sinking, gut-wrenching moment of realization that well, first question, how these things get on the train, right? And second, isn't it a coinky dink that all this is going down as you're entering the closest portion? Like, you guys are going to run essentially through the edge of the Badlands for the next 16 hours. What a coincidence. So what action are you taking as your brain is sussing all this out?
Oh, I'm hiding behind Hugo's back. He's
fair enough.
Well, actually, I was going to say, because he's kind of as I remember this, he's sort of positioned like right in between me and Hugo, like we're like flanking him, guarding him from these two beasts on either side. Basically. Yeah,
more or less, that's exactly what's happening.
Yeah. So as I kind of glance over my shoulder to watch my back, and I see him there, like just doing nothing to my eyes, it's like, hey, buddy, would you mind going inside there and getting my shield for me? It's a big gear-looking thing. Just grab it off the shelf if you would.
So I imagine for the camera's perspective, right? We see that sort of RDJ Sherlock moment, right? Yeah. Where you're watching the fight and the fight slows down and you're like, all right, yeah, right thrust to the left temple, so on and so forth. And so as we come out of that, we're expecting this like sort of badass series of events that just never happen because you're hiding. like the payoff is that nothing happens. All right, cool. So that will roll us back up to Icarus. Icarus, you will not have your shield for this moment because he has to fight.
Yeah. I get that.
What are you doing?
Okay, yeah. If I can go again, I'm going to.
It's up to your turn.
Yeah, awesome. So yeah, this thing is just kind of standing there looking at me. It's not.
No, it's going to do every bit of eat you in a second.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, I'll say. You had your chance, and I repeat my hammer trick where I point it towards him and kind of turn it like almost like I'm turning a tool, just and again you see this kind of like this sort of light form in front of it, forming this mechanism that twists, in almost 4 dimensions.
All right,
and a beam
you
of
have
light.
Advantage on the attack.
Oh, cool.
That's the side effect of guiding bolt.
Yep, and the light lances out again at with only first level this time, but
right.
Hold on, I gotta make my and natural 20.
All right, so you will annihilate this thing as it had a whopping 1 hit point left.
See that thing is I get a nuts 20 on that. All right, yeah. So I just this is kind of wave motion gun effect, if you know.
So as your beam bores into it, right? Again, we see it rushing along the muscle lines, the veins, and the skin begins to pop and blister. And then it's kind of like that scene in Gremlins where they put the one in the microwave. This thing everywhere, right? So everyone who's outside the door, give me a dex save. If you're inside, Wolfram, you're the only one on the inside that could possibly hit. Can you give me a dex save with advantage, sir?
Okay. Yep.
I think Ken fell.
Dexterity.
20, not natural.
You're fine.
Hold on. 13. 14.
You're good. Baggers, what'd you get?
There we go. 24, 20 natural.
Oh yeah, you're completely fine.
Yeah. Well, he's behind me. So
Yeah,
Yeah.
like you ducked just in time not to get
Splash
popped in
on
the
her.
face by the ick of this thing.
18.
You're good. You're good.
You said Dex, right? 18.
Yeah. So the blood again hits everything and pocks it a little bit, right? From the contact. This thing.
we're not talking xenomorph level.
No,
acid.
no.
Okay, good.
That
would have sucked.
I guess you'd be like getting like soda in your eye, right? More
Yeah,
uncomfortable
yeah.
than actual like damage. This muscly mound of goo and bone just collapses right there. There are just ribs jutting out of this thing. Its skin's been blown off of its face so that you can see the eye that almost looks like it has muscles in it also. Still staring hatefully at you as it sort of sits in this caved skull with the tongue sort of lolling out of its mouth. Dirterog, what are you doing on the inside of this?
Since she blew her attack, I'm going to attack. First off, striking it with a club, and then spend a key point and do flurry of blows if I make contact there.
Okay, do it.
21.
All right, so you'll hit him.
2 plus, that's 5 for the first attack.
Okay, and this is with your club.
Yes.
Is the flurry of blows with your club or with your fists?
No, with the offhand and a kick.
Okay, cool. Go ahead.
12. 17.
That will hit.
And the other one's 17 natural.
Okay, so that'll hit.
Okay. 2 plus 3, 5 on the first one. And 7 on the second one. With the flurry.
Sure. Give me just a moment. Here. So you send teeth flying out of this thing's mouth as you connect multiple times with its poor little goblin-y face. You're rolling D4 for your martial arts, right?
Correct.
All
Also
right,
a
cool.
D4 for the club.
That's fine. Just making sure. And it growls, right? And then hunkers. It is stumbled back, but it drops into a very cornered predator, the animal, not the xenomorph fighting thing, sort of way.
Cornered rat.
Yeah, very, very different version of predator there. One, you have 3 dots in your forehead and you die. So it drops back and hunkers. Hugo, the large beast behind you has just been exploded, and this husk one is still in front of you. You can also feel like a hand on your back that as you move is moving with you, as Thargus is doing everything he can to stay behind you.
Oh, that's fine. And like for Hugo, that's perfectly acceptable. Like, not that we need to get like too meta into his thought process. Since people can't read minds yet, but
Working on it.
he does. Yeah, right. He doesn't. He's there because he knows that he needs to be there to sort of to protect Thargus, because 1, he's unarmed and unarmored, and 2, he's kind of foppish, right? So like,
Right.
how good is he going to be in this scenario, really?
Sure.
So by having stabbed this thing and caught it on fire with some sort of magical fire in the previous, I'm now fairly concerned between the goblins speaking in what I recognized as like some bastardized version of abyssal.
Mm-hmm.
And then this thing clearly being like this hollow-bodied monster, like this shit, what's the word? I can't remember. But anyway, so I'm gonna use my remaining spell slot to attempt to smite this thing with my dagger.
Okay.
The green flame blade. And I guess, well, I think the spell slot gets used up after I roll to see if I hit or not, but I think they might.
I don't know if it does or not, but that's how we're gonna roll it, so go for it.
Okay. Well, I hit.
Okay.
So, yeah. So we need to roll that. And then 2 of these. Mother effer. All right, so the smite and the total damage is a whopping 5 points.
Okay.
I rolled a 1 and a 2 on my D8. Oh, you know what? Ah, shit. Never mind.
What?
Yeah, 5 points. 5 points.
All right, fine. So the smiting energy like slams into this thing, and with this very hollow sort of like sensation, right? Like there's not that meaty, gratifying crunch that you might hope for. But it does perhaps frighten this thing as it for the first time takes that sort of shifting step backwards. Aquila on the inside is so emboldened by your words earlier and betrayed by her lack of ability to seemingly do anything competent at all in this fight, barring the fact that she has multiple levels on you guys. She kind of chortles in victory and holds her short swordy dagger out towards this thing and says, "What business do you have here?" Rather than killing it. Wolfram.
Well, I was going to kill it, but seeing as how she wants to talk to it, I'm going to instead, I'll take sort of one side step. I'll draw my dagger from my belt. I'm going to give the blade a kiss, and then I'm going to whip it at the wolf thing that they're fighting outside the door.
Okay.
And I got a 16.
Okay. So you'll hit.
Okay.
Just checking something real fast here.
That's the wrong dice. My dagger is going to go thunking into it for 11 points of damage. That's not bad.
Did you roll sneak attack also?
I did, because I'm allowed to.
Just making sure. All right, so 11 points of damage, right? So your dagger, end over end, right, past Hugo, like maybe even like scary close to Thargus, like he thinks it's a little too close, as it goes whizzing by. Again, this hollow sinking, but it will be enough to kill it. So go ahead and if you want to describe what happens when this husk version of the same thing.
What?
Dies.
Oh, dies. Okay. So my dagger sinks into it, and I see it slump to the ground on this thing, and then start sliding. And I go rushing in there, and I kind of do a little dive to retrieve my dagger and yank it out as its corpse sort of falls off the train.
Okay. Okay. So neither one of them attacks because they're dead. Right?
That's good to hear.
Right. but they actually do.
Their ghosts attack you. Oh, come on.
Right. So, that's what I thought. Okay. So, the goblin on the inside, right, hunkered down. It begins to sort of shift itself around, right? Almost like it's looking for room inside of its own body. And then you hear this popping sound as the bones in its body begin to rearrange themselves. His wheedly nose becomes more pronounced and starts turning into a muzzle. His yellow teeth grow out and forward, filling this snarling mouth with razor sharp teeth. His golden eyes become larger. His little pointed ears come out from underneath his hood as it's absorbed into this furry form of a wolf that then stands up and howls viciously. And yeah, so Aquila and Dirtarog, you now have a wolf, a cornered wolf in front of you. It has these red tones to it that give it away as one of the few creatures that's capable of surviving out in the Badlands. All of you hear a wolf howl on the inside of this this room, and Thargus, it's your turn.
Well, with my hand on Hugo's back, kind of using him as a place not to trip and fall off the train, I am not going to confront this thing. As I gaze in the room, and I'm looking around for like a loose weapon or like a dagger or something that's fallen or any kind of weapon I can pick up and at least hold it in my hand in case another wave of these things comes on the train.
Okay. So what you find is a short hunting spear that has come loose from someone's belongings on the inside, right? And it's like the blade of the spear, sure, is it's shaped like a leaf and decorated like a leaf. And as you latch onto it and grab it you realize it's probably a decorative weapon, but
what do I
it work
Yeah, it is.
once.
Not anymore. It's gonna. Not my preferred weapon, but hell, I need one. So
Sure.
I grab it with gusto, and
minus the snow, right? But this is the beast that is now looking at you, Dirdrag and Aquila and Wolf from inside the cart.
Yee.
So that will run us back to Icarus. Icarus, you have this mound of melted flesh and bone just like inches from you. Had it not gone down when it did, perhaps it would have eaten your face.
Right. Yeah. So I kind of step back, and then I hear this now wolf howl. It's like, and I kind of turn because I'm pretty much right there. I turn and step into the doorway, and I guess I'll just hold my action unless this thing tries to get through the door, and I will do what I can to stop it.
Okay.
But just now I know, I know this is a big place and whatnot. And I don't know where my stuff is in this place. But is is my shield like near? Is there a way I can tell if my shield is near me? I don't know. I'm not sure where it would be. Do you want to roll for it or?
Yeah, roll for it.
Roll
roll a d20. High, you're good, and it's reachable with 5 feet.
Right.
Low, it's in one of those containers behind the.
14, not terribly high.
No, that's good. That's more than 10. So you're good.
Oh, okay.
So yeah,
it's really high. Okay.
No.
Okay.
It's you can see it with its sort of like waxed blanket that goes over it. You can see it now because that's the blanket that was pulled off earlier to chill the burning Hugo.
Yeah.
So
it's
on top of yourself, 5 feet in the air, which is inconvenient for you, but
yeah. So as I kind of walk in and I sit and I kind of glance up and I see it, and I kind of look back at, without taking my eyes off the wolf, I kind of assess the shelf, give it a good hard kick with my heel at the bottom, and the shield comes like tipping off and like landing. I catch it as it falls in my hand.
Okay, sweet. Dirty Rog, you have a wolf in front of you. Also, for those playing at home, that wolf shows no sign of injury.
All right. I'm attacking it again. And again, I'm going to spend my other key point and hit if I get the first smack in. And this time I'm using the club all 3 times. I'm going to hit it with the head of it. Because something clicked in the back of my head when it made the change like that. I've heard too many stories of werewolves.
Okay, fair enough.
11?
Wolves.
AC is 14.
Okay, missed. And yeah, doing good. 13.
So you strike at it. You actually hit, but as you do, it snarls and it forces your blow away from itself, showing a bit more intelligence than perhaps a wolf would have. What was the last one?
The last one is 22.
Well, that you clearly smack it in the face with that one.
All right. Oh, good. 4. Grand total.
Okay. So you whomp it, and it looks whomped, but other than that, nonplussed by your strike.
Okay.
Hugo.
This one outside is dead. Yes. And
yes.
They're inside now fighting this
actual wolf.
Good grief, it's a flipping druid.
Thargus and I are the only ones left outside. Is that correct?
Yeah, because Icarus just stepped inside. Yeah. Okay. I closed the door. It's not there.
I turned to Thargus and I'm like, "Are you hurt?"
I am the door.
No. Blood from earlier. Go, do your thing.
I'll move to the door and like just kind of poke my head inside, right? Like,
okay.
There's Aquila, Icarus, Durdarog, and then
Wolfram. Yep.
All inside fighting.
No, so Wolfram is just inside the door again, like kind of blocking it from entrance exit. Aquila is regretting her gloating, but right on top of it. Durdarog is right on top of it. Icarus is like 6 feet into the room, right at the beginning of that big green shelving unit. And you step in time to see like the shield like roll off, and he just like kind of Captain America is it. He like puts his hand up and it like literally just falls into place on his arm.
Okay.
But if you were trying to figure out, is there a way you can position yourself to be able to do something?
Yeah, like maybe? I don't want to fuster cluck the whole inside of this. cargo container, because like from what I had mentally pictured, like, you know, you said that the space between like boxes and shit was pretty narrow, and so
It
like,
is.
I don't want to like, oh yeah, there's 9 of us in this room now.
Right. So I mean, this area here is still pretty open,
Yeah.
but they're fighting it back kind of over here, right?
Right, and the green rectangle there is sort of
The shelving.
mildly line of sight blocking.
You could probably push some things around and get line of sight on it.
Okay. Then, you know what, I'm just gonna stand guard near Thargus, and like make sure nothing else sort of jumps up from behind us while everybody else is distracted. Primarily because I'm wounded, but also because, again, there's a shirtless fop out here by himself at that point.
Fair enough.
So
Fair enough.
I'll hold my action in the event that anything jumps on board the decking of the train out here.
All right. So Aquila kind of swears again in that sort of dwarvish bar tone, and she swings at she rolls a 1. She's worthless. So she swings her short swordy dagger and sinks it deep into the shelving near this wolf.
I heard the shelving off the train.
I like it.
I'm just kidding. I'm joking. I disarm
All of her weapons.
Magic items and everything. I just take them and throw them all off the train.
And she kind of curses at that also, and doesn't bother to try and wrench it free. This is a woman of desperation at this moment. She just clenches her mailed fists and is like gonna go brawl this wolf at this point, I guess. Speaking of Wolfram, it's your turn.
Okay, well, I'm going to kind of dodge in, like nimbly hack and dodge back again with my disengage.
Okay. So, as was stated earlier, getting that far into it, your attack will be at disadvantage, right? Because you have to kind of
all right.
Wheedle your way in there,
I'll cancel out my advantage then.
That's perfect.
So 19.
You hit it.
Awesome. And I did, nice, 14 points of damage.
Wow. So you cleave deep into this beast and are relieved to see perhaps relieved to see actual flesh and blood exposed.
Right.
And it snarls and whimpers and kind of like lashes at you as you pull your dagger back out and cartwheel, tumble, flip, dodge back around the corner.
Okay.
It being very badly wounded and cornered goes berserk and just lunges at Aquila. What do you do when the encounter kills the person who's supposed to save the PCs? Right. So he
Can I
crits
make a
her.
suggestion? Can I
Yeah.
make a suggestion? It seems unlikely it would attack her unless it had its sights set on her, because she did like almost no damage to it, and me and Durdrag did almost all the damage.
Correct.
So.
However, it's not going to go around the corner after you.
Fine.
And she's the idiot that has completely squared up with it to brawl, right? Durdrag is attacking monk style, right? So I imagine that he's the one that's like slipping in club, kick to the face. Whereas if you look even here, she's been in front of him the entire time.
Well, might not she at least go to dying instead of insta death?
Oh, she's not going to insta die.
Oh, okay.
That was just me mumbling at how terribly she's rolled and this thing rolling a crit. And then I rolled max damage. Oh, Jesus. No, she's fine. She's 7th level. She's not gonna die from this. However, it jumps up and rips aiming for her throat does not quite catch her throat. It catches the bottom of her throat, the top part of her chest, and just removes this huge chunk of flesh, exposing like her sternum. Like you can see the bone. It takes out such a large chunk, and it in defiance doesn't even chew it. It just swallows it, gulping it down like a starving dog you just like flipped a hot dog to, right? It just Thargus, you're standing outside. The weather's pretty nice. Cool breeze from the train moving. You're still in the shadow of the mountains, so you're not getting like a lot of sun at the moment.
Well, we can't let the our favorite red-haired woman die. That's not
Like,
that wouldn't be right. She hasn't even had a chance to smack me in my face yet.
so like if you line yourself up at the door and you're kind of watching this battle like through boxes, past like vases and suitcases and stuff, like you can see movement happening over there, and you definitely see her like her face chesty part get ripped off. But what do you want to do?
Yeah, not much else.
I throw my dagger at it.
I've got a spear, but I'm afraid. I mean, I don't know even if that would make any sense. Are we still under the dim light?
You are.
I know there's a lot of activity going on over there, but would I even be able to see what's going on?
So you can see it in sort of like clips, right? It's almost like watching like an old film being run too slow. Like you're almost seeing in between the frames as the shadow crosses they move in and out of the sight lines of the boxes and so on and so forth. You know, are there openings that you could hurl the spear? Sure. Are you going to be at disadvantage?
Strobe light.
Yes.
Yeah.
Is it 50-50 chance that that's going to end up in Durgarog's face? Mm-hmm. Or Achilles?
Yeah. Yeah.
She's living. Never mind.
Yeah, that wouldn't make any sense. No, I'm still going to remain in defensive posture, hoping that that especially with Icarus and
Okay.
Durgarog going at it.
All right,
Although
so
I can't really pronounce it.
that'll run us back to Icarus.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So I see she's not doing too well. So I'm going to move up around the corner and try to
Up this
get
way?
in between. Yeah, I'm basically
Okay.
get in between her and the her and this thing, and if I can get there in one round, I'm going to take a swing at the thing.
So I'll let you do it, like, but you'd have to go this way and then past the wolf to do it, or you have to go.
Oh, I see. Oh, I see.
long
Okay.
way.
So she's still on that side of it. Okay, never
Oh,
mind.
yeah.
Then I'll just attack the thing.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't need to put myself in front of it, be between them. Just she's a big girl. She can take care of herself. Yeah. So I will. I come in, look at it, give the hammer a little twist, come down with a big overhand Thor swing. 10 and 5, 15. Oh, sorry, 16. I still have the magic on it.
16 hits.
Okay. All right. And that takes 8 points of damage. Oh, and another 4 points of fire damage is this kind of white flame that's on it kind of like flashes as it hits it, and you see these sparks of flame kind of run across it.
So how many points in total?
Oh, you made me do math again. And remember what I said with the first one?
14 total.
No. Total?
Yeah.
Yeah, it could be.
Okay, yeah. All right, cool. So you end this this poor enterprising goblin. And as you do, and you see it slump to the ground as a wolf, right? And it reconvenes itself as a goblin laying there, and he still has a hit point or two. But I would imagine that very rapidly, like Dirtirog's, your, and Akila's boots all come down on its head. Like she's probably not asking questions anymore, right? So it's like Icarus, and then it's Dirtirog, and Hugo, and Akila. So I would imagine about that exact same time, like all of you just on this thing. And it's defenseless. So yeah, you curb stomp a goblin.
It's one of those kind of wide angle pullbacks as the camera sort of pulls back, and there's like this ring of people around just kicking him and
right. Like you don't know how much violence is actually happening until you see the blood just up the wall.
Right.
And so yeah, so we'll drop initiative order here. We don't need it at the moment. And that's kind of where you find yourself. Akila is bleeding horribly. Like everywhere-ish. And she is still more irritated about how poorly she fought than she is about her chesticle being ripped off. But she does have her hand kind of covering like here and here, and just blood is running past it.
I'll go up to her. I say, "Let me take a look at that." I kind of shake my hammer like you'd shake a match to put it out. So I kind of shake it, and the flame goes off it, and I hook it back on my belt.
On her neck.
Yeah. I don't think that's medically sound. I'm pretty sure. So yeah, no. So I'll go and take a look. Unfortunately, I have no magic left that I can heal her with, but I will do. I'll do at least. Well,
you guys can definitely fuss around in here long enough to find, like, if one of you had a medical kit.
Yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I have a healer's kit. So
yeah, so you can fuss in here long enough to find your pack and pull it out.
All right, yeah. So I'll have her sit down, and I'll see to her wound. At least I'll say,
just go ahead and just give me a wisdom roll, and just with proficiency, just don't roll one. Is this where it goes?
No. 8.
And
total ends up being 11.
Right. The ankle bone's connected to the throat bone. Doesn't seem right. All right. So yeah. So in that sort of Hollywood fashion, right? We have that moment of quietness, and then all the sounds of the train sort of start returning to the room, and there's copious amounts of blood in this relatively small area. There is disgusting burning-ish flesh lumped like just outside the door. There's massive amounts of destruction to the train at this point. And then kind of coming from up the train direction is that horrible looking dwarf fellow who
maybe we should warn him not to step in the goo out there.
He stops just short of it. And he's kind of waving these ugly hands at you. Explain yourselves.
Shut up.
And then he points at the busted railing. Explain this.
I look to Thargus, like, you got this, buddy. Like, I don't say anything.
This is your job.
Yeah, I don't say
it's your time to shine, buddy.
I look directly at him. Like, there is no miscommunication.
Time to do your part.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna hide in shadows.
Our esteemed guest is killed. Second, my door is blown off. Third, my railing is destroyed. Fourth, one of my chests has been thrown from the train. More than fourth, Bling.
There's a lot of scratches too. Some broken windows.
And you set core on fire.
If this bum don't shut his mouth, I'm gonna put a fist in it so deep you're gonna choke on it for a month.
So
I just gotta put my hand up to him and say, "No, just let's watch this."
So as you say that, he looks at you like his eyes just like in that sort of Bill Nye, not the science guy, but the other one. His eyes just sort of cut to you, and you see this sort of yellowish energy crackle across him, and you see it start crackling across the railing of the train as well. You wouldn't test me in my own home.
Okay, guys, let's, sir, let's take a deep breath. Let's calm down. My hands are still shaking, by the way. And I'm like, there's been an incident on your train, yes. But we were attempting to help the fiery red woman. Maybe that's not so important right now. Can you assess the damages and maybe give me the bill? We could definitely come to an agreement.
What frickin' Bill? We saved his ass.
No.
Tell the bum to just keep his mouth shut, or I'll shove him off the back end of the train.
No, he can remove us from the train.
I can remove you from a lot of things.
Yes. We mean no disrespect in your mobile abode.
So he looks past you. He sees Aquila, right? And his finger juts out and it points right at this the too many pictures. It points right at the medallion that she's wearing. A crimson hound. Should have expected. Fine, settle it. And he turns and storms off. And as he does, you see another individual that you've all met in the past, standing there, kind of looking at you, bemused, right? Oh well, you certainly had an exciting afternoon.
What's his name again?
Kyo Titani.
Kyo. Huh? Kyo! I shout.
He you see he like slices off part of an apple and puts it in his mouth and nods to you.
Hey, watch out for the goo out there. It's not gonna be good for your shoes.
Well, I do suppose you have some explaining to do. Come with me.
So I'll help the girl, get to her feet, and
Right.
I say, yeah, we, and I kind of give her a little pat on the back. Have some explaining to do. Let's go.
Okay. So the scene fades out and we reconvene inside the dinner car, right? The broken tea set from earlier has been cleaned up. Our favorite butler is buttling really well.
As we kind of walk past, I kind of hold my finger up to him and wish him coffee, if you would. Yeah.
He just smiles and nods and goes on about his business. You see that Keo walks to the far side of this car and he turns the lock on the door. And then very quickly, like, flashes his hand up and there's this energy that passes. And there. That will help. And he goes and he sits himself down. So. He puts his fingers in sort of a pyramid in front of him and touches his little mustache. Who wants to go first?
I kind of look back and forth at everyone. You know, it's like,
I'll point it. I'll just point at Thurgus.
Well, it seems that we've become associates by circumstance, and we've had slight trouble with some miscreants on this train, and yeah.
I step forward at this point. I say, what he's trying to say is there were some monsters that killed one of the guests on the train. We hunted down the monsters and killed the monsters, along with Red here. And she can explain who the hell she is because I have no freaking idea. But I guess she was watching the guy who got killed, and she did a really piss poor job. No offense, I turned to her. That's about it in a nutshell. There was the perpetrators involved were a goblin werewolf kind of thing, a little goblin which we chucked off the train a few miles back, and these hellhound dog things that well, you see the goo you saw the goo out there, but pretty nasty business. I'm okay though, if you were wondering.
The creatures we chased look like this, and I'll just do a little illusion.
Oh, cool.
So he can see what the creatures are.
Nice.
And then I'll also do the goblin, and then I'll do the pile of goo.
he does kids parties too. Yeah.
Interesting.
Steve, while they're talking, I'm going to walk towards wherever the butler got coffee from.
Mm-hmm.
Get a cup of coffee. Stop long enough to pull the hair back where it's supposed to be and drop the seaming. So what they're going to see now is the Dirtirog that they met, except he's dressed the same as the other guy.
Right. Okay. You see the K.O. Titani, he watches you as you do that, and he looks a little nonplussed, but also you see a slight arch in his eyebrow.
This one does try to maintain a much lower profile than this.
Oh, this one too, but you're not making it easy now, are you?
This one never's had it easy.
The creatures who came on board did so with intent. In fact, they mentioned that they were sent by a master who was filled with a hatred. I heard sounds in the cargo car, and tried to investigate. Well, chaos followed.
That's a good word for it. For you, for all of you. Chaos. I would imagine that they did come on board with a certain itinerary. And unfortunately,
should we have done
it seems
nothing?
that they... Well, should you have? Who am I to say what you should and shouldn't do? I don't make the laws. Well, all of them. No, yes, they definitely had purpose. The assassination of Retter Alt Nevis is probably chief amongst them.
If I may
Goblin,
step in here. I
believe you've already stepped in.
Might I suggest that I don't think if that had been their only goal, that they would have just left and avoided all this difficulty. I'm supposing that they were after something in the storage compartment. So perhaps this person who was killed, I don't know who it was, had something of value they were transporting, or important papers, those sorts of things that they deal with in your circles.
So he nods and then whistles, and seemingly out of nowhere, this large canary flies over and lands on his hand. And you see he looks at it, take care of it, and he turns loose of it. It flies out a window, and you see it hauling tail feathers back towards the luggage train. A moment, and his eyes become like this solid, opaque blue. And he begins to turn his head in much the same way a bird would.
I assume by this time I take the coffee from Barrett and nod thanks. Thank you.
Barrett brings drinks and or victuals for everybody, whatever you want. There is no salesmanship to it at all. The normal lightheartedness of him seems to not be there. This is very much a matter of fact sort of service. And a few moments later, K.O. Titani's eyes clear. Is there a chest?
It's no longer on the board.
I look over at Hugo. It's like, well.
Anything in it?
A demon summoning goblin.
Interesting. Goblins don't naturally or unnaturally have, well, they shouldn't, according to, well, we won't get into that. Interesting.
Are you not traveling with an armed guard or a retinue?
No. And not to sound pompous, not that I don't. I couldn't benefit from their services, but sometimes I just.
Who else knew you would be on this train?
Ooh, a good question. Who would know? And you see, he like actively is, like, I don't know, running through names in his head.
Shouldn't we be more? Isn't the better question who knew the Arthenian was on the plane? Was on the train? Althanian. They seem to be he seemed to be the target.
No, we'll get there.
Cayman Iope, perhaps. I had and that name.
Does that name ring a bell with anyone?
No,
or?
but not to you, but it does to Hugo. Cayman Iope is one of the abbots of the Church of Kor.
Okay.
He is the abbot that is currently in Postgate. That's Q''MAN. Last name is IOPIE. Cayman Iope.
IOPIE.
Yeah, Cayman Iope. But I mean, he's not near here.
You have secured my passage through the gate.
He kind of widens his eyes a little bit, looks around the room, and then shrugs. I suppose that's fair to say.
Steve, and are there any others on this train that you've been the same thing for?
He looks, and then kind of wryly, nods his head from side to side. Not directly.
What of the Althanian?
Oh. Redat Nevis. What of him?
Was he going to Postgate?
I hope not.
And why do you hope not?
Can you imagine an Althanian and the other side? Yeah.
I'd never seen one before today, so
They're a strange lot. Old as races go.
Arrogant, intolerant, and a waste of air.
Set in their ways. But we do owe much of our understanding of magic and technology to them. They're probably closer in kinship to whomever created the gate than any of us. Well, most of us. And he looks over at Dirtrog.
Now there was comment. I mean, we will be traveling past the Badlands for the better part of half a day, and if it gets out that an Athenian was killed on this rail conveyance, that could put a damper on travel over to the other side. I mean, the danger in traveling, threats to their lives, maybe even pulling back of the technology that's being used.
Luckily, the knowledge and operation of the gate is much less reliant on the Althanians than, say, this Rel is. And he kind of points at a pen that signifies him as being part of the Collegium Arcanum. See to it. Not them. But if Red Hot Nevis was supposed to go through, that does raise some interesting questions.
How are you saying that, Steve?
How am I saying it? So
Yeah.
his name is Rete. New word OT. Last word Neves. So it's Ret Ot Nevis. So it means Ret, son of Nevis. But everyone in his family would be Ot Nevis. And for most of you, it means nothing. For Dirdirog, he's although they all posture as, he is legitimately the equivalent of
like a Saudi prince.
yeah, he is part of one of the ruling families of Althania. And relatively well known, well spoken of, well educated, a heck of a combatant, and good at using magic. Like if you were to class him, he's an Eldritch Knight, right? Also arrogant, womanizing.
Yeah, all the bad stuff too, right?
Right. He's everything Thargus is, but worse.
Doing it the right way. Yeah.
Right. But he's doing it with money.
With more experience points, that's all. He's just doing it with more experience.
More experience points.
Steve, I'm going to flag down the butler again and get pen and paper.
He comes right over.
Because I'm going to sit there and try and write down this as the next tale for Mascara.
Okay.
I do. Well, Hugo does appear as though like he is, trying to connect dots. Like he has this look on his face, like he's troubled by something, or he's deep in thought.
Pondering.
Yeah, like he is pondering. And he does like cast a sort of suspicious glance at KO Detaining. This Althanian, the one who has been murdered, traveling with armed guards.
Hmm.
There's a well-to-do individual such as yourself. And we're to stand here believing that some random creatures were summoned on this train to kill him. And arguably the most powerful band in the world is traveling upon this train with no escorts, chauffeur, valet, guard. A Althanian was killed by a reanimated corpse of a dog. And whatever aspersions you may think I'm casting on your character or that of any other person on this train, I find it hard to believe that you being here is coincidental to that.
Well, that is well thought out, and the precise reason that I angled so hard to have you here and going through the gate, now isn't it? So I suppose we could say that in reality, you're the reason I'm on the train.
You've done my order a service that I'm sure they are thankful for. But I'm not your bloodhound.
Lots of dog talk today.
I just kind of like, that's a good point. Could have gone with a different animal, but fine. Sure, whatever.
Think of things how you wish. As far as myself and
I have one master. Do not serve another.
he smiles at you. And again, the reason that you're here.
I'll go to see about the woman. She's obviously with us, right? But like at this point, like
Yeah, like Barrett's over there, like actually administering like medical care to her.
Right. Like I go and assist in that, like turning away from him and like ending the conversation. Like not to bring it up again, you know what I mean?
Right. So he doesn't, I mean, stop you or fuss about it or
Yeah. I just wanted to be clear, like I'm not like yes, he's arguably the most powerful man in the world, or the second most powerful man in the world by whatever metric you choose to, determine that. But like Hugo is a man of like great faith, right? And
sure.
So like if you were to take like the Christian aspect of, it's easier for a rich man to pass through the eye of a needle than it is for him to get into heaven. Like that would kind of be the mentality. Like Hugo isn't. He's not necessarily unconcerned about the man's wealth or power or prestige.
Mm-hmm.
Like he realizes that he could very much use like even a smidgen of his authority to just like crush Hugo like into non-existence if he wanted to. But that isn't going to make him like become something he's not or give up something.
No, I totally get that, and that's great.
Okay.
So yeah, KO watches you, and then he turns his attention back to the other four of you. Mr. Dragante, kind of.
Yeah.
Durante? I heard you ask Elzar for the bill. That won't be necessary.
Really? And why is that? Not that I wouldn't appreciate it, but nothing comes for free.
Because we saved them, they owe us. We're not dealing with Althanians who think that we owe them.
I would go so far as anyone owing you, but I would go so far as to chalk the damages up to collegium business, and I can have it taken care of.
Well, I am certainly appreciative of your generosity. I would give him an exaggerated bow.
How did the door come off?
I was investigating the final cabin. I had chased creatures along the rooftops to the end. I heard sounds coming from within. It sounded like speaking, but not in a voice I recognized, although Aquila later identified it as Goblin. I needed to see what was inside. I unlocked the door, a simple matter, and it almost blew up in my face. Perhaps the goblin trapped it from the inside?
So he turns his gaze towards Hugo, but not really like gaining his attention or even attempting to. But Ko says, "You do travel with interesting companions." Of course, Icarus, your order will be made aware of your efforts to preserve the rail and the integrity of the system.
Thank you. That's much appreciated.
So, 2 goblins and 2 hounds.
More than 2 originally. There were
Technically, there were more.
least
Yeah,
3.
At least 3.
Oh yes, the one that fell from the train. 3.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder how they got on.
I agree. They were powerful leapers, but leaping aboard a train moving at this speed seems almost impossible.
I suppose it's possible the goblin summoned them. Yeah, they seem to be
Even
creatures from another place. So
even that, questioning how the goblins.
Perhaps they are shapeshifters. They were aboard in the appearance of someone else. It might be worthwhile to compare the current passengers versus the original passenger list.
I don't know about shapeshifting, but you have a point. They may have had help from someone on board.
Perhaps a head count?
When all of this was transpiring, the latter half of it, 2/3 of it, was there not a guard stationed back at the...
There was, and he seemed rather unconcerned by evidence of scratches and sounds upon the roof. He looked like this, and I'll do up an illusion of what he looked like. I think he was a dwarf, as I recall.
Hold that for a moment. You see, he talks to his canary again, and it flies off. And he, while you're holding this illusion, he just sips on his coffee. 45 seconds, a minute passes, and you hear as the door unlocks, and the halfling, the rotund human, and the very large, might be mistaken for a half orc human, enter the room. The guards.
These are the mercenaries, right?
Yeah, he points at that, and they look at it, and they're like, "We picked him up in Olram. Not part of the normal crew. Why?" And so he kind of, relates back. He looks at the larger guy. Gather their things from the back. It takes some moments, but eventually your actual gear is brought up. We may not have seen the last of our friends. And so as the camera cuts and you guys are donning your armor if you choose to, right?
Oh yeah.
And gearing as appropriate, or putting on your key straps, or whatever the crap it is that you do in order to maybe Hugo's over praying, or maybe he has paladin armor. I don't freaking know.
Yeah. I mean, Hugo's like, yeah, he's got armor and weapons, and like he's
right.
He's not wearing plate mail, of course, because beginning level character or whatever.
As you guys gear up, I suppose Icarus looks more like his actual picture.
Yes.
Yeah,
so you hear this. There's a lot of heavy lifting, and you hear this a lot of clinking and
it's really disturbing when he puts on. When he puts on the chest piece, it actually twists and locks into place, and you can't quite figure out how that works. Like, how do you, it makes no mechanical sense.
That feels nice.
And you see the guards or the mercenaries are kind of doing the same thing, right? They're putting on like chain greaves and things like that. There's a silent conversation that happens between Ko and the halfling, and your stuff from your rooms is brought into this dining car as well. I think it better if we all are here.
You expect an attack?
No, of course he wasn't. He came without guards or valet or butler.
Well, he looks over at Barrett. Barrett looks completely abashed by that statement.
I'm sorry, I did not realize he was your man.
Technically, they're all my men, and thus why I don't have to travel with a contingent. Even Elzar is under my employ. You seem to harbor something against me. If you think I misrepresent myself or this cause, or have ulterior motives to use you as a bloodhound or hunting dog, or use you for treeing something, or and he prattles on like 5 more various dog related things. I think you may have me mistaken. When I spoke with you in the cabin and I told you the reasoning I had for sending you,
yes,
specifically you, that was the reason. Your piety, your sanctity were highly spoken of. Your self-righteousness, however, they forgot to leave out.
Hugo just remains quiet.
As for the rest of you, I had no direct control over you arriving here. Indirectly, I suppose, perhaps because I'm part of the committee that approves travel through the gates, but no more than yourself. I'm aware of Icarus and his ties to the church, and perhaps it is his nature to seek out prosperity or even to spread the word of his forge master in the new land. I didn't question. The others of you, for one reason or another, are leaving behind a life that perhaps you don't wish to have here anymore. Or maybe you're simply seeking wealth that lies beyond the other side, and I can't tell you that that's there or not. I haven't physically been myself. What I can tell you is not everything in core runs the way you think it runs. Not everyone who stops to feed the homeless is doing so because they truly, genuinely care about whether or not that person has a meal. Not every law that is passed is in the best interest of the citizens. Not every ship that is christened is done so for military might or mercantile purposes. Sometimes it's all just a show.
Well, I cannot speak for my newly made friends, but I was more concerned with the immediate future. If you suspect another attack, as you seem to, and you say that there was a traitor on board, perhaps we have not uncovered all the traitors. I'm going to start looking around the dining car at anyone who's not this group.
Right. So Barrett, I do not know that I suspect another attack. I do know I wouldn't be surprised. I've never practiced much divination. But betrayal, traitor, that seems to fit with recent politics on many fronts. Whether it's serpents or... And that doesn't necessarily ring true for any... Well, it rings true for one of you. The rest of you... do you have religion, Thargus?
Not really.
Okay.
Lip service.
Your family done a whole lot of trading in the deep south, like past Althania into the actual like southern kingdoms?
I'm gonna say yes.
Okay. So I'll let you make an intelligence roll if you want on that on him saying serpents.
Okay.
No proficiency, but
Yeah.
if it does, I'll shoot you a message.
Oh. Well, a 3.
I don't like snakes either.
Hey, by the way, when he mentions that line about not practicing divination, I kind of think about that for a second, and I kind of step away from the group. I don't like turn and walk away. I just kind of step aside a little bit, sit down at one of the tables, and I break out my little pouch with my gears, and I begin to sort of sift through them and meditate. And I'm going to spend 10 minutes to ritually cast augury again.
Okay.
And I'm basically going to ask you what it will basically tell if I do certain actions,
Right.
how will that affect the next 30 minutes? Yeah. So I'll say, well, I'm saying we're gonna stay holed up here and wait for an attack. That's kind of the action we're taking. So I take out the gears and I move them around the bag and then spill them on the floor. It's gonna kind of clatter, and you see almost these little wisps of divine energy sort of like twisting around them and forming shapes and smoke above them.
So your gears seem to think that's a good idea.
Okay.
Not necessarily you're gonna be attacked, but I think it's a good idea.
Okay.
Get attacked.
I just kind of give it a nod and slide him back into the pouch. sucks. Tighten it up.
So yeah, he says, the serpents, even down to the collegium and core itself, and those in Postgate. One of the things that's always baffled me. There's been no war in our lifetimes. There wasn't the likelihood of war in our lifetimes. Majority of citizens here, Stormont Mountains, even Alphania, eastern provinces, the southern kingdoms, there's food, there's shelter, there's a lack of desperation. And yet here we find ourselves pushing through hopelessly, futilely to another world where we may never come back from. And for what? For more gold? For strange animals and furs? What is it that burns in the heart of men that push them this? I can tell you, it's not piety. It's not passion. It's something darker. Greed, lust.
Does it have to be so? Could it not merely be curiosity, a desire to know what's on the other side of the mountain?
And it's statements like that give me hope. But then here we are, suited up in our... He looks at Icarus. Plate mail armor, or gauntleted in chain and leather, on the edge of turning against our benefactors because of curiosity. What was that sound inside the room? What are these claw marks? Why did Red Hot Nevis die? And it's that funny thing. None of us are cats. So I can't guarantee that satisfaction will have any impact on this.
We are defending ourselves in this case.
I'm not blaming you. Your actions on the train are heroic. If not,
I meant only
lethal.
that us wearing the garb of war does not mean we seek it. Just means should violence come upon us, we are ready to defend ourselves.
I agree. It's not often that a man goes out seeking a wife, but they often find them.
I'll smile. Think about past conquests.
And so, do I suspect another attack? No. Am I suspicious of one? Yes. This close to the Badlands, and here we are with goblins and magical ones at that, whether they are arcane or druidic.
Would I happen to know if, with my mechanical understanding, if this train might be capable of going faster?
Sure. I mean, it probably could.
I'm sure it's got a cruising speed, but then a lot of things have a little extra they can go.
Mechanically looking at it, you think, yeah, it probably could.
Yeah.
Arcane looking at it, you have no freaking clue.
Yeah. I say to him, considering that if we are attacked again, it might be from without rather than within this time. I don't know if you have enough pull with the train conductor. You seem kind of a dick, but if we could speed up a bit, maybe get through the Badlands faster, or at least make it harder for them to board, if you know what I'm saying.
Well, it's not a bad idea. Why don't you head up to the engine and ask, or tell him rather. You can say it comes from me if that helps.
I will do that. Thank you. So I'll just kind of walk past the others, feeling good in my armor. He is You can hear it like halfway down the train. It's like clunk, 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 disappears.
So as you get to the door, you hear as the door unlocks, right? Magically.
Mhm.
The door, you open the door and all you hear is as it's just driving torrential rain. But you can get up to the front, no problem.
Yeah.
If we are attacked again, then we will know for certain that the goblins were perhaps acting in concert with someone versus simply being brigands who secreted themselves on board. If that is the case, that does break some of the laws, the prescription of the treaty, and that would not be a good thing. That would openly mean war for the first time in, well, what benefit is there to war?
Perhaps there are groups who do not want us to pursue what's on the other side of the rift.
I don't necessarily think it's tied to the portal. If that was the case, I would have been a much more likely target than Brett Nevis or any of you. They could have known you were traveling through, but for it to be him to...
The creature said the master hates us. Who is this master and why the hatred? It might be a clue.
Could be. Goblins are a strange group. Ogres too. What they refer to as masters. It could be a god. It could be the head of the clan. It could be an unknown party. But I mean, who would benefit from a war that between Kor and Althania, if it were to be assumed that he points over at Aquila, that she was responsible for his death, or who would benefit from a war between Kor and the ogre goblin nation, because I don't have a better word for that at the moment.
I think
To jump back into what you just said, sir, there was one other person involved, and this one doesn't see her, nor has this one heard from her, yet she is the one that made the accusation against the competent lady guard. She killed him. If this one recalls correctly, those were her words.
So he looks at all of you for a moment and then looks over at Aquila, who looks down quickly, like not trying to meet his gaze. And he freaking calls his canary again. But this time it's like much more acidic. It's not like go check it out. It's like find her.
we should also round up anyone on this train who knows that he is dead.
And he looks at you like, how do I know who that is? And your suggestions would be...
Well, there was the crying woman with Thargus. I'm sure there are others. The conductor.
This one thinks that
if the concern is a war because of his death, and prolonging that information from escaping would be important.
this one would assume that due to the woman in question, that she could be found in association with the other Althanian imitators, though why one would imitate an Althanian is beyond this one.
All right. So he looks at Thargus. Do you wish to go round up the 3 youths?
I think it may even be better for us to keep an eye on them and follow their whereabouts.
It wasn't a question.
I'll take that as instructions. Sure.
All right. So you go out the other door back towards the car where you've seen them before.
Mhm.
He looks back over at you, Hugo. Between you and Dirtrog. And then over to Wolfram again. And he looks at Wolfram and he goes, anyone else? I mean, at this point, we might as well just get everyone on the train.
I briefly eye the waiter. I'll let that slide.
Barrett looks at you again like, what?
I'll let it slide. I just don't like him. I felt he tricked me. So.
Throw him off the train.
I want him off the train. I want him off the train. I want him off the train.
Okay. So there's no more suggestions of people. It takes about 15, 20 minutes, and Thargus comes back, and he has all 3 youths in tow. The young lady is much more compliant. The two boys are posturing a bit until they step in the room and see KO, and at that point they lose all sort of posturing. The canary comes back. It canaries at him, and he looks to you, Durog, and says, "She's not on the train. Or if she is hidden."
Then this one supposes that we have at least found part of our spy.
The guards.
One get off a train moving at this speed.
Well, I suppose the same way that the
Painfully.
dog and the chest did.
Then
Shouldn't
pair
leave
it. This
willingly.
one. Then this one also suggests that you pair it with the question: how would one get on this train in motion?
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't she on here already?
She was, to the best of your knowledge. Well, I mean, you guess maybe you never saw her in the dining car, right? Because all of their food was brought to them privately. So she's like one of the few passengers that you would never have had interaction with. The only people that seem to be able to pass that way without question that you saw was the halfling guard, Aquila, and the Elzar, the conductor.
This one presupposes that the idea of conflict is appealing. And from this one's previous experience, there is a function of spy called provagatur.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what I was alluding to when I said that I thought this was all. Well, anyway. So he looks over at you, Hugo, and he gestures to the 3 Althanian want-to-be's. Did you want to question them, or shall I? He looks at you, Dirtrog, and says, "No, not you."
I will question them.
All right. the guards come back, the mercenaries come back in the room, and they also report they cannot find the fourth mercenary.
Might this one suggest a different approach to this sweep?
He looks at you.
If what we seek cannot be found, then find that which we do not seek. It changing of appearance is not beyond even this poor one's reach. Is there someone aboard the train now that wasn't there before, or two someone's?
Okay, again.
I'm gonna so to facilitate that, I'm just gonna lead them out of the car that we're in.
Okay.
Like just into the next car over.
Yep.
And then like clear out a space to allow that to happen, where I can like stash two of them in a room, and like I can have another one separate to myself.
Okay.
You know, while the other two on ice.
Diablo-rize them.
We're not playing. This isn't a vampire game.
My bad.
No. But I do think in hindsight, though, it might be better to have each of them questioned, not just independently, but also at like the same time and away from each other. So maybe if we can get like KO to do one, and I'll take one, and then if he's not cool with Dur doing it, then maybe Thargus or somebody who's
Okay. Yeah, so we can set it up so that you question one, KO will question one, and Icarus is at the front, and I guess Wolfram can question the third.
Oh, that's right, because Thargus went to go do the thing. Okay. All right, so I'll be back in a few minutes. Sorry, guys.
Cool. So at the suggestion of looking for something like that, it wouldn't be a spell. Even he looks at you and kind of like grins, and he says, even this one, gesturing to himself, runs low on power. So it would be an item. Something they could use or wear or consume. He looks over at you, Wolfram, and you could help out with that, couldn't you?
I could, if the item has not yet been consumed.
That would at least rule out 2/3 of the options.
Assuming the person who used this item still has it upon their person, I might be able to find it. If they have removed it, I can only find the item.
That's at least a start. He gestures.
Go for a walk.
He gestures, and the halfling guard comes over. Etni. She has access to all the rooms. So do you now.
I will go for a walk with her.
He nods.
Steve, do we know the red lady's name at this point?
Aquila.
Yeah, I mean, do we know it?
Nope.
He probably referred to it, maybe. No. Yeah.
Nope. No, he's only ever gestured to her. Nope, you sure don't. She's never bothered introducing herself. She's a little
red it is.
This one suggests at least one question to our formidable friend in red. With the statement that has been made that meals were served privately and guardedly to the Althanian, how did the blonde woman we seek get there? Who let her in, and for what reason? If Our Lady in Red was the guard, then this one believes that she would know.
So Aquila looks up. I don't question my employer. I don't even see him often. If he had someone in his room with him, that's none of my business. And Barrett can speak to the fact that there were 2 meals requested to the room each evening.
This one has a question for Barrett.
He buttles over.
This is not as your place as anything but a noted agent. Did every passenger aboard the train take a meal, or were you generally 1 or 2 meals short?
So everything on the train, sir, is made to order. Most of it is conjured in the kitchen, actually.
The numbers are all this one is questioning.
I
I
could find out the number of meals conjured each evening.
If the number is larger, then this one believes that means they came aboard unnoticed. If the number of meals is the same, then this one feels that they were hiding in plain sight. That our fair lady that is sought was consuming a meal as the fair lady and not as the passenger that boarded the train.
Okay.
If there is even fewer, then there are others, and the number of meals that are continuously missed would give this one an indication of how many it is that we seek.
I can look into that. It'll take me some time, but I can look into it. So as you all go your directions, right? Icarus is walking up to the front at this point, entering into the engine cabin.
Good luck at me out of there.
Hugo and Ko and Thagris at this point are all going into a room with one of these Althanian wannabes. And that leaves Durdrag in this dining car with Barrett and the mighty warrior Aquila. So as all these doors sort of like, that's where we'll call it for tonight. Yay. Yeah, okay. We should also see here. Everyone go different places.
Split the party. That's what you do.
All right, so let me stop the broadcast that no one's watching.